Recording in progress.
Please rise as you are able. I now call this meeting of City Council to order.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north, strong and free. From far and wide, oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
The City of Barrie acknowledges the traditional territory of the Abenishwago people, which include the Ottawa, Ojibwe, and Potawatomi nations, collectively known the Three Fires Confederate. We also acknowledge the Wendat Nation, who occupied these lands prior to the middle of the 17th century. We are dedicated in honoring Indigenous history and culture and recognize the enduring presence of Indigenous people on this land. We are committed to moving forward in the spirit of reconciliation and respect with all First Nation, Métis, and Inuit people. You may be seated. Sorry. Welcome, everyone. I call this meeting to order. As you notice, Mayor Nuttall is not with us tonight. He is at home recovering from surgery, and I'll be sitting in his place today, and I speak on council's behalf. We wish him a speedy recovery. So our first item for tonight is the swearing in of a new student mayor. The student mayor is Emma Miller, and she is representing St. Joseph's Catholic High School. I will now call upon Tara MacArthur, Deputy Clerk, to do the swearing in of the incoming mayor.
Please state your name.
I, Emma Miller,
Having been elected to the office of student mayor for a period of March 6th to March 27th, 2022,
having been elected to the office of student mayor for the period of March 6th to March 27th, 2024,
do solemnly promise and declare
do solemnly promise and declare
that I will truly, faithfully, and impartially exercise this office
that I will truthfully, faithfully, and impartially exercise this office
to the best of my knowledge and ability,
to the best of my knowledge and ability,
that I have not received and will not receive
that I have not received and will not receive
any payment or reward or promise thereof
any payment or reward or promise thereof
for the exercise of this office
for the exercise of this office
in a biased, corrupt, or in any other improper manner,
in a biased, corrupt, or in any way other improper manner,
that I will disclose any pecuniary interest, direct or indirect,
that I will disclose any pecuniary interest, direct or indirect,
in accordance with the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act,
in accordance with the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act,
and that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to His Majesty King Charles III.
and that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to His Majesty King Charles III.
I now make this solemn promise and declaration,
I now make this solemn promise and declaration,
conscientiously believing it to be true,
conscientiously believing it to be true,
and knowing that it is of the same force and effect as if made under oath.
and knowing that it is of the same force and effect as if made under oath.
We will now sign your declaration of office. It's okay. I'm a lefty. Congratulations. And now you can assume your seat next to Deputy Mayor Thompson.
Welcome to Council, Emma. I hope you enjoy your term in office. I will now ask council members to introduce themselves, and we will start with Councillor Rietma.
Well, welcome to City Council, Emma, and I'm Claire Rietma, Ward 1.
Welcome, Emma. I'm Craig Nixon, Councillor Ward 2 in Barrie. Welcome.
Nice to have you with the team, Emma. Anne Marie Kungle, Ward 3.
Welcome aboard, Emma. I hope we don't get too many complicated meetings for you. And I'm Amy Corser, Councillor Ward 4.
Welcome to the team. My name is Nguse, Ward 6 Councillor.
Welcome, Emma. I'm Gary Harvey. I'm Ward 7 Councillor in the Holly area. And tonight you picked a great night because I think Deputy Mayor Thompson's going to need some assistance.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Thompson, and welcome, Emma. And I see you brought a lot of fans, so thank you for raising our attendance significantly, and I hope you have a great experience. I'm Jim Harris, Council Ward 8. Thank you.
Welcome to Council, Your Worship. I'm Sergio Morales, Ward 9 Councillor, and also St. Joe's Class of 2011. Woo! And St. Joe's Student Mayor of 2009. So, there you go. Good luck.
Welcome, Emma. Hi, I'm Bryn Hamilton. I'm the Ward 10 Councillor.
Welcome, Emma. I am Deputy Mayor Thompson and also the Ward 5 Councillor and sometimes referred to as Deputy Dude. The first item on the agenda is the confirmation of the minutes. The minutes of the City Council meeting held February 7th and February 28th, 2024 have been circulated. Any corrections? Seeing none, the minutes are adopted as printed. There is a recognition of a recipient of the 2023 Heritage Awards. I now call Councillor Rietma, Chair of the Heritage Barrie Committee, to provide a presentation concerning the recipients of the 2023 Heritage Barrie Awards. Councillor Rietma.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and it's with great pleasure that we every year give out these awards to recognize buildings that have heritage value in the city, and also to recognize people and organizations that contribute to that. Now, before I we start handing out the awards, I would like to introduce to you some of the members of the committee. We have a few of them, I think, in the audience. Maybe just give a wave when I call your name. Kathy Colbatch is here. I saw her. Deborah Excel. There she is. Camille Koskowski. There. And Pauline Stevenson. There you are. All right. There are a number that could not attend tonight, so but we're all very pleased to have as many people here as we can. Councillor Kungle and I, we're also on the committee, and we are very ably supported by staff, planning staff Liam Munnick right here. Now, just as a bit of background, the committee's mandate is to advise council on all things heritage. And we've made recommendations to council about property tax programs and properties to be listed and or designated. The committee also has a mandate that has to do with public education, and you can often find committee members at the farmers market on Saturday mornings or at Open Air Dunlop. And things that we're working on include the designation of a number of heritage buildings. We're working on heritage conservation districts, and just starting out on developing a history of the legal profession in the City of Barrie. And that was initiated by the Attorney General, who this summer dropped by a booth at the farmers market. We're also working on replacing the plaque for the 9 Mile Portage. And we have just finished the new walking tours for the city. And you will have at your desk a copy of that. The ink is barely dry on that one. It just came out. So, and this committee has an awful lot of work to do ahead of us. But tonight, we really want to celebrate our heritage. We're here to honor the past, celebrate the present, and inspire the future. And right now, I would like to call up Councillor Nixon to present the first two awards. Councillor Nixon.
Thank you very much, Councillor Rietma. I'm going to start by reading a declaration from Mayor Nuttall, who, as you know, cannot be here tonight. But this is being presented to Craig and Julie Taylor. This award recognizes Craig and Julie Taylor's efforts in conserving and preserving a heritage building in the City of Barrie. The home at 30 Mary Street is referred to as Dutton House and has been extensively restored. It is now home to Renegade Digital Media, Inc., a communications agency owned by Craig and Julie Taylor, who remain committed to protecting the architectural and historical significance of this building. Signed, Mayor Alex Nuttall. Please come back. I'll just put this here, unless you want to even hold both. I should mention that Councillor Rietma and I have a special spot in our heart for Heritage Awards because we're only a couple of years away from being, considered ourselves designated. One more to read. The City of Barrie Heritage Award presented to Jarrett and Sarah Johns. This award recognizes Jarrett and Sarah Johns' efforts in conserving and preserving a heritage building in the City of Barrie. The home at 123 Toronto Street is unique in Barrie as it reflects a transition away from traditional architectural styles at the turn of the 20th century. Signed, Mayor Alex Nuttall. Come on down. I don't see them in the house tonight, so rest assured we will get both of these to them as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Nixon. And now I'd like to call on Councillor Corser to give the next award in, and this is a building in Ward 4.
Okay, it is my absolute pleasure to present this on behalf of, I guess it was on behalf of Mayor Nuttall. That's right. For this award recognizes Angela Thompson's efforts in conserving and preserving a heritage building in the City of Barrie. The home at 96 Sunnydale Road is referred to as Woodlawn, and Angela has spent considerable human and financial resources to restore and refurbish this grand estate. It is thanks to this dedication that Woodlawn remains as magnificent as it was 145 years ago.
Just to let everybody know, my husband, Jeff,
I'd hand him it to you.
He does all the work. I do the design, well, I do some of the work too, but
Thank you very
just
much.
to let you know, it's a team effort.
You just did a white hard hat.
Yeah, this is what we're doing. That's right. Oh, there you go.
Thank you very much. I get to do the next award, and it is for Trudy Romanek. And this is to recognize Trudy's work in highlighting the cultural heritage of the City of Barrie. Trudy, where are you? Over here. Now, Trudy wrote the play Bobby, and that brought Barrie's sports history to life, and it celebrated Bobby's incredible accomplishments. And with the popularity of your play, which is quite amazing, she has single-handedly rekindled an interest in Bobby Rosenfeld. And Bobby Rosenfeld was an interesting person. I mean, she was an Olympic athlete, represented Canada in the 1928 Olympics, and she won gold in the 100-meter relay and won silver in the 100-meter. So,
some people say she won gold. It was a close.
Anyway, she was quite the character, and you did a remarkable job in bringing her to life. So congratulations to you. We really appreciate it. And now I would like to call on Councillor Kunkel to do the next two presentations.
My apologies if I have my back to some of you. As the Ward 3 councillor to which our Legion 147 is located, and as a proud Legion member, I am very honored to be able to present the next two awards. I'm going to get straight out of hug though.
Santa likes hugs.
Trying to stay on the good list. So in particular, Steve, if you haven't had a chance to meet Steve or be in his presence while he's sharing an enormous wealth of history, I invite you to embrace this man or visit the Legion and invite him into a conversation. You'll be all the better for it. Steve Glover is receiving this award in recognition for your work as Barrie Legion 147 Historian and Public Relations Officer. And in addition to that, your past very significant involvement promoting remembrance of our veterans, the Legion, and Canadian military history, also through your work with the Grey and Simcoe Foresters Regiment Museum.
Thank you.
Thank you. If I may. The formalities. So again, recognizing your work as a strong advocate for promoting the remembrance of our veterans, legions, and Canadian military history. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you. Just a few words while I've got the audience. Do I need a mic? Some people say I don't need a mic. Okay. Again, I'm Steve Glover from the Barrie Legion. I'm the branch 147 historian and the public relations officer. And tonight I'm joined with us, our first vice president over here, Mr. Fern Taillefer, and our president, Marcel Vigneault, over here, and they'll be getting an award for the organization of the Legion very shortly from Anne-Marie. But I just wanted to indicate here that this is the 80th anniversary of the World War II battle at June 6, 1944, and we intend to celebrate that here within the city, and we're already organizing along that event. Next year, to 2025, it'll be the 80th anniversary of the end of World War II in Europe, and of course VJ Day later in August. But we intend to make sure that the city understands that and that we bring together the population to do that. Over the course of time, the Barrie stood tall, Simcoe County stood tall. And it was a pleasure to meet Trudy tonight again, who have communicated, Trudy Romanek, that I don't see, there you are, who did some research a while back, and Sergeant Bob Henson, who paid the supreme sacrifice for Canada out of the Barrie Shanty Bay area in 1945. I have to mention one other thing. I saw that there was an article about a rail track being potentially used as a trolley line here in town around Jacobs Terrace. I happened to have to take my car over to, it was broken down to deal with some repairs, and so I got to walk that line, and I think it's a wonderful idea to be able to take a streetcar to get my car fixed. Way to go, Sergio. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. You can stay. And now this award goes to Barrie Legion 147 members. And on behalf of the members, if you would, Monsieur Marcel Vigneault, please join me at the front, as well as Fern Taillefer. So before I present the award, if you haven't met these amazing men of service, I would like to take a moment to more formally introduce you to some of their backgrounds. So Marcel is our president of the Legion 147, but also really well known, I believe, as chief of police in the James Bay area, and has actually given us over 30 years of service in the police force. Merci beaucoup, mon ami. And Fern Taillefer, I had to make a list here, so I can So I'm very privileged to know Fern, and he's helped me in my growth as a member of the Legion. And Fern is our Veteran Service Officer, in addition to being our Vice President, first Vice President. He is our Parade Marshal, he is our President of the Canadian Peacekeeping Association, and he is the lead for our Poppy campaign. Thank you.
Thank you.
So formally, this award is being given in recognition of the members and their efforts in conserving and preserving both local and regional heritage. With public support through the Catch the Ace lottery, and if you haven't seen it, I think we're over $80,000 right now, so you're doing a good job. The Legion was able to obtain several display cases to house uniforms, photos, medals, and other items of those who've served. So if you have not been into your local Legion in a while, please do come in. You don't have to be a member to enter this great place. And the beautiful display cases that were constructed by local businesses across Simcoe County. In addition, I believe support from Moore's Clothing in the City of Barrie that are now displaying several different uniforms of veterans who have served. So thank you for your proud tribute to those who've served.
Merci beaucoup,
Steady it.
Sorry, just say a word to me.
Okay. Marcel Shy, I'm not. First of all, thank you so much for this honor. It's a great award. A couple things I want to talk about is, first off, as the hat I wear as a Veteran Service Officer and for the Poppy Chairman. The Poppy campaign is one of the most important campaigns that the Legion has year-round. We start on the last Friday of October and we finish on the November 11th. I'm glad to say that the City of Barrie is incredible in their donations to the Poppy Fund. This year, we raised over $145,000. That's awesome. Very, very generous. And where does the money go? Well, believe me, it goes to our veterans and families in need. The money last year, I used over $120,000 to help veterans in need, including those who are homeless. That's where the money goes. We also donate to charities. So that's where the money is so important. And as a Veteran Service Officer, the other hat, I get to help these veterans who need that help. So I can't do it without you and all of you and the City of Barrie. So once more, thank you so very much for your generosity. And come to the Legion. You don't have to be a veteran to come to the Legion. You can join without being a veteran. We'd love to have you there. And if you're not sure, come on in, have a look. We'll guide you around, and then hopefully we can get you to join. Thank you very much.
Just in order to finish this, I want to tell people, veteran, there's less and less veteran. But this Legion has to stay alive in order to save the purpose that Fern just talked about for to help the veteran. And most of our action at the moment is towards the community. We want the community to come to the Legion and join. I just want to pass the message. Okay.
Deputy Mayor, if anybody ever thought that heritage was boring, clearly that isn't correct. Heritage is not only about old buildings, it's about the stories that the people that used those buildings, built those buildings, and live in those buildings, those stories that they have created. And you saw an example of that tonight, people that treasure our history here in Barrie, and we thank you very much for your support. Thank you.
Thank you, and congratulations to each of the Heritage Barrie Award recipients. Well deserved. I will give people a moment if they would like to leave. We do have some big things on the agenda. People are more than welcome to stay and watch this riveting TV, but I will... we'll
go home and watch.
Perfect. Thank you. We will now move to deputations. There were 3 deputation requests received from individuals wishing to speak on motion 24-G046 concerning the Community Infrastructure and Housing Accelerator order for 175, 199 Essa Road and 50 Wood Street in Ward 8. In accordance with the city's procedural bylaw, each deputant will be permitted to a maximum of 5 minutes to speak. Once your name is called, please approach the podium and for your deputation. I will now call upon Craig Bush on behalf of Vision Barrie to deliver a deputation. Mr. Bush, I know you've been here before. You have 5 minutes.
Hi, me again. So, with regards to the fairgrounds property, I think, oh, that's big. I think we've gotten a little distracted. We've got a big issue with the schools, not having the proper land for that, the allocations, confusion over who might get that, or if they get that, or who locates. And then also a deserving distraction of the curling club. But I think we're so looking in the future here with the other things that we have to deal with in the CHIA that we're not looking at what sort of development we're actually getting for Barrie, which I think that the high-fiving 10 years from now, when we've got the school sorted and we've got a development we don't want, won't be the same happy ending that we're looking for. So I'm here to speak on that, and to what we were presented about 6 months ago. So prior to the CHIA, multiple buildings, high story, and don't get me wrong, I'm not against density and I'm not against profitability for realtors. I'm in favor of both of those, but I think we can have that, and I think we can have a great city at the same time. And right now what we're getting is something that's not going to create a great city. So that is what was presented about 6 months ago. That's what's being presented. This time I've carved the school off because it creates a false sense of what is actually there. We are looking at 6th floor, 10th floor elevated green spaces. These are concrete and we're in Canada and it's by the highway. Community does not happen here. Community happens on the ground floor. You see a nice green streak through the middle running between the big buildings? That's a 4-lane road, okay? That will not be a shaded tree-lined road in Canada. The perspective of what this is actually going to be in real life when we get it, we are going to regret it. We are going to regret this. I'm not against the whole development. It's fixable. It can be great, okay? But it needs to have community. And here's a comparison of what we were first pitched that we weren't that crazy about, and here's what we got the second time with the CHIA. You can see that it's actually gone in the opposite direction as far as actually having a quality of life and space. Again, I'm not against that if the ground floor is activated. I was down at a session in Florida, Seaside, Florida, kind of the home of the new urbanism, and they were actually saying in their urban villages, they regretted being 2 or 3 stories tall. Okay, they should be 4 or 5 stories tall. I think the center of this, where we've got townhouses, could be 4 or 5 stories tall. I think there could be more density, providing we can mitigate the traffic. This is Mumbai, India, with 1 billion people. And we say we don't have enough space. Mumbai's got 20 million people, and they put in tall buildings and urban villages. So if Mumbai's got the space with 20 million, we have the space to make urban villages. Why am I here? And based on the stuff that you've gotten, a lot of work's gone into what's being presented to you guys. Why? Because when you see the iceberg, you have to get in the front of the ship and start waving. And this is the place where we set the standard for all of the high-density key developments that are going to come down the pipe. We have to have people places, livable places. This is the time to make a decision. Are we going to be followers? Are we going to be the cities that just put in housing because the province wants us to? Or are we going to keep the community that makes us really special in Barrie? This is a place of community, and we're about to lose it. If we do development without urban villages and local jobs, we are going to spend a fortune on road building. We know this can't be mitigated. We know this by Mapleview. Okay, and you can say Ann Street can take this traffic, not any better than Bayview can. Okay, we know that doesn't work. It's going to cost us a fortune in building roads. Safety and policing. No activation on the main street, no eyes on the main street, no safety. Reduce property values. This will have to be a price sale because you're not selling the quality of life. Okay, so that reduces the values of these properties. And we think the builder would know this and want to get maximum for their properties. Mental, emotional health, and addiction. Oh God, 38 seconds? 35% of people suffer depression now from separation from society. Climate change, affordability, because you have to have cars, urban decay from monobuild, happiness of buried residents, city reputation. Oh, there's a bunch more. Okay. There's 16 reasons why we should have that. Action needed. Delay the chia for 60 days. Work with the developer for a robust pedestrian urban village. Move the center road to the outside. You
10
can't
seconds,
have a big community
Mr.
with
Bush.
center road through the middle. A dynamic, inclusive plan for public transportation, and then come back and approve it or not approve it then. An additional add, because you can throw in last minute things.
Thank you.
Okay? Allocate money for, to city staff for transportation plan, including highway rail and an urban village plan.
Thank you. Thank you for your deputation. Any questions? Councilor Morales.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Thompson. Mr. Bush, that was possibly the most effective deputation for or against a development, and I don't think you're taking either approach of for or against. That was the most effective deputation.
Give them more density.
That was the most effective deputation I have personally witnessed in 9 years in regards to a development application. To further increase my understanding, if IT could pull up the last slide that was on. And let's go one further. So the next one. Oh, that was it. Oh, you don't have a slide after that? No. Okay. Could we go to the slide with the proposal 1 and proposal 2, IT? So probably like 7 back. There we go, right there. Thank you. I love the fact that you cut out the school. That is extremely effective. That is allowing us to understand and process information better as decision makers. And I couldn't agree more with you. So I guess I'm asking to staff, and this is unusual, but the timing of this whole thing is unusual. Chia is unusual, so I'm going to ask an unusual question to an unusual process. How can council, and there's only so many things we can control, how can we, as the 11 members here, vote in favor as appropriate to get to a closer vision of what Mr. Bush was talking about? And it's not necessarily proposal number 2, and not necessarily, at least in that built form, proposal number 1, but addressing some of the concerns, specifically with the massing and how it's spread out with more of a urban village, public square. There's many names for it. Pick the name that you like better, and the built form. So I think I'm going to direct that to staff initially. I'll maybe start with Ms. Banfield and go from there.
Through you, Deputy Mayor, to Council Morales, ultimately, we'd have to process a planning application like this. What Mr. Bush is not, he's suggesting something that's not before council. So you're not actually being asked to make a recommendation based on what Mr. Bush is presenting. You're being asked to make a recommendation or make a decision based on what the applicant, the owner of the property, is requesting. For tonight, there's really no other advice that I can provide.
Okay, no, perfect. So the applicant, I believe, proposal number 2 is what they're proposing. And chia, again, a chia process, at least at this stage, it's not a full rezoning. So it's not like tomorrow the property is rezoned with, let the setback be this, let the height be this, let the UPH be this. So maybe for those watching here, we have a bit of an audience, and I know a lot of people have been following this file. If council votes in favor tonight, like what is being approved, and how much control do we have once it comes back?
Through you, Deputy Mayor Thompson, to Council Morales. So this evening, the motion is to direct staff to present this information to the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing for his consideration, his review, his approval.
Thank you. And follow up, Ms. Banfield, what does the minister approve? Does he approve the plan as proposed by the applicant? Does he approve the idea of it being developed in a general concept and then sends it back to the municipality, at which point we decide setbacks and public open spaces and various things.
Through you, Deputy Mayor Thompson, to Council Morales, so the minister can make any decision. They could change what the applicant is provided, but some of the elements that you're talking about really would be cemented into a zoning bylaw: height, setbacks, upper floor step backs, massing, height, all those sorts of things would be part of a zoning decision.
Okay. Lots of trusts and lots of these nuances. Okay. Thank you for your presentation, Mr. Bush. The City of Barrie doesn't deserve your level of energy and commitment, but we will take it, and we need to get this right. So I will listen to my colleagues if they have any questions on this.
Thank you, Councilor Morales. I have Councilor Hamilton.
Thank you, and through you, Deputy Mayor Thompson. I'm also trying to understand sort of the process and how much flexibility we're going to have if this goes through the CHIA process and the ministry comes back. So what I'm understanding is once they come back, there'll be very little possibility for us to introduce any elements that were presented tonight by Mr. Bush, correct, for the most part? That urban design type concept at that point would be too late to really make those substantial changes that would be required?
Through you, Deputy Mayor Thompson, to Councillor Hamilton, that's a good summary for sure. Like there's an element of returning the draft plan of subdivision and site plan details to be done at the City of Barrie, but applications would then be implementing the zoning that the minister may or may not see fit to issue.
Okay, and just to follow up, if I may, were there any conversations between staff and the developer about introducing more of the urban design initially? Was there, any resistance from the developer? Like, I'm not sure how the city sort of approves things, and I mean, this is a development I think we want to get right, and I just want to know, is this sort of a concept that the city has been pursuing with developers, or just sort of a new concept that we really haven't, given as much time and energy as maybe we should have?
Through you, Deputy Mayor Thompson, to Councillor Hamilton, there definitely in any planning application is a lot of back and forth and dialogue between city staff and the applicant, technical reviewers. That goes back and forth for quite some time usually before a recommendation report comes to council. In this case, choosing to look at this CHIA route really removes that part of the process.
Okay, I'm struggling a little bit. I'm going to be totally honest with this. I'm supportive of the urban village design. I don't know how practical it is, how feasible it is, how realistic it is. Is it something the developer can even, afford to do? I'm reluctant to now move forward with CHIA and thinking that we have no options once this is approved to even look at introducing any elements. So I feel like we're at the 9th hour here, and I'm sort of really having difficulty about the best way forward, because we don't want to screw this up. I mean, this is massive, and it has such potential, and I don't want to get 10 to 20 years down the road and be like, oh, I was part of the council that screwed that piece up. A question to you, Mr. Bush. Have you had any conversations with the developer? And in your experience, and maybe also Ms. Banfield, if you can pitch in, from a cost perspective, the things you're talking about and presenting that look wonderful, is there really, any practicality? I'll ask you first if you've met with a developer and the practicality from a cost perspective, and then Ms. Banfield, I'd love your input in terms of your expertise from a cost perspective, if this is really even, doable.
I did have some back and forth with the developer, with Abu, way back, and then with the urgings at council and from councillors, I did reach out after the last, and by text, and I didn't hear anything back. So I offered my services to communicate and try and work on it together, which gives me grave concern, because usually during the sales process, people are the most amenable to talking. And this is entirely feasible. In fact, I'm recommending a higher density. Like if we have an urban village where people don't have to drive for things, they don't have to drive to work. Yes, some people will, but you take a lot of that traffic off of the road. It can go denser, and it can be 5-story townhouses rather than 2-story and 3-story. Like you can increase the density and make it more viable for the developer. There's really not a downside for the developer. And in fact, if they do this properly, the standard in big cities is for every point on your walkability score, the property value goes up by $3,000. So right now, the walkability score is 35 in that neighborhood. So if they create an area with a walkability score of 90, it's going to add tremendous value to their retail prices. Otherwise, they're going to have to sell, with what they're building right now, they're going to have to sell on price.
Okay, and then if I could just redirect to you, Ms. Banfield, to get your sort of thoughts and experience working with developers and obviously your expertise in this area from a practicality point of view, and what's your standpoint?
Through you, Deputy Mayor Thompson, to Councillor Hamilton, what I can just share is that the performas and what makes sense for each site is different. It all factors into what people pay for the property and what they, it's very complex. So, fundamentally, we expect that when people bring in an application, it's because they've run their numbers, so to speak, and they know what can make the site work. That's certainly a lot of the things that we hear when we have those conversations. But again, I would suggest that it's very complicated and each site is different, and I don't necessarily think that it's an easy thing to say right this minute.
Okay, so given that, and through you, final question, I don't want to put you on the spot, but would your direction or thoughts to council still be we should proceed with the CHIA at this point in time, that we've had tons of conversation with the developer, you're comfortable with what's being proposed here? I guess I'm just looking for some encouragement that stay the path, because I'm hesitant. I'm nervous at this point. I'm thinking we might want to take a look at our process here and make sure we've got it right before the ministry comes back and we have no control any further.
Through you, Deputy Mayor Thompson, to Councillor Hamilton, certainly when we had these first conversations, I was very clear with council, you would not be getting back a technical planning report on this CHIA process like you would for any other development application. So no, staff haven't done a technical review, staff haven't issued technical comments, we haven't had those back and forth conversations because we were following the direction of council to move forward with processing a CHIA.
Thank you for that, and I will be fully transparent. I'm learning as I go to with the CHIA process and it being new. I think we're all sort of learning with the CHIA process. My other hesitancy with the CHIA is, again, there doesn't seem to be any timelines, right? We have no idea how long this could sit with ministry. Is it 6 months? Is it a year? The seniors residents, we haven't heard anything back from that process. So I don't know. I would love to hear other comments and questions because I'm struggling with this one.
Councillor Corson.
Through you, Deputy Dude, to, I guess it would be Michelle, Ms. Banfield. I don't, or maybe it's just a comment. I think that we are new. Some of us are very new around the table, and we're presented with mass development and growth and intensification, and we're trying to muddle our way through with setbacks and understanding development sites and the relationship between developer and city, and with new laws coming down from the provincial government that we're trying to build more homes faster and all the things. I think we really get caught up in all this detail. Where is the community in the builds that we're doing? And I met with the deputant, and we discussed this at length, and I've heard a lot about this. This is absolutely doable. This is absolutely feasible. It's done in a lot of places. And we're sitting with a blank canvas and a place that we can actually create something that in 50 years from now, we're not going to be saying, oh, gee, I was the one on that council that did that big block of cement that's at the corner there. I don't know where we are legally. I don't know if we're so far down the pipeline that we can't turn around. If we can turn around, I want to turn around. We need to build something that's community-oriented for the future, and I have a real problem with the lack of connection and the lack of community that we're developing in these sites. I am all for up, not out. I want density so I don't pave over forests and farmland, but its density is good if you do it right. And we can do it right here, and if it's too late at this point, which I swear, I hope it is not. What steps can we take moving forward to ensure that this won't happen again? in our area, if we have a development, if we have this, like, is there any zoning? Is there anything that we can put in that can create this type of idea moving forward through zoning laws through the city? Or I guess, sorry, Michelle, through you, Deputy Mayor, to Ms. Banfield, is there anything that we can do moving forward if we can't save this?
Ms. Banfield, just before you answer, if I could just remind members of
Yeah.
council, look, we're getting into the debate. We've had 3 members. The questions are only directed to the deputant
Okay,
in clarification.
that's-
And that was, yeah, just, but as clarification, you guys got into a little bit of the debate and the back and forth. The questions should be directed about the deputant, like
Okay.
the deputation, sorry, of the deputant.
So at this point, we are not to engage staff at this point?
You can ask.
Okay, just for clarification.
Yeah, but it's more about what Mr. Bush had presented.
Okay, with this exact, what is in front of us?
His deputation.
With what is in front of us. Okay, so, yeah, I just would like to lend my voice then, backing up the bus. I would like to lend my voice to others around the table to actually take a serious look at this before we make a mistake that we might regret in the future.
Thank you. I have Councillor Harvey.
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yeah, thank you for your presentation, Mr. Bush. And I'm looking at the 2 different proposals that you've got that show on the one slide there. And you spoke about how obviously you're not against high density, however, really believe that this urban village piece needs to be built into that. Now, obviously, when you look at the urban village, you're not dealing with the same density that we're talking about here. So I'm just trying to really understand what you're trying to portray to council tonight. Is it to get rid of all these towers and create maybe a 6 to 10 story urban village? Or what, because it hasn't been clear to me anyway as to what piece of this is going to be your urban village that you would like to see. And then also too, I think we also have to keep in mind that the city doesn't own this land. It's owned by a private developer. And obviously that's why it was good to hear that you've had some conversations with them. But maybe if you can just explain that a little bit better so that way we can fully understand how this urban village is going to build into possibly some of these towers or maybe none of these towers as to what your vision actually is.
Thank you. I think it would be easier if we could see that slide again, the current slide, if that's possible. It'd be easier to describe with the visual.
Is that the comparable?
The second, yeah, that one's fine. Thank you. So normally an urban village would kind of be a bowl. It would get higher. Well, it can actually go either way. In Europe, they tend to be denser in the center, the higher stuff. They could only build 5 stories once upon a time, so they build 5 stories, have the square in the center, and then slope away. Okay. In this instance, it's a smaller property, and it's actually easier to have the big density along the main arterial roads and the highway. It's easier to do that and then to come down into a people space in the center, much like this did in the first rendition, and it's still viable in the second rendition. So if you look at kind of the 2 long buildings that are surrounded by the 3 towers to the left-hand side on the right-hand photo. So at the very left of the right-hand photo, there's 2 buildings that are side by side. That kind of would be the core of the urban village, and the spillover around it, where that area might be 5 stories, but all that area, everything facing it and moving down the road a little bit would all be first floor retail, second floor offices, so that it's activated on the main street. So it could blend into this development. It just needs to be allocated for it versus it all just being strictly, elevated living boxes.
Great, thank you. And if I could just have one more follow-up, Deputy Mayor. Just curious, was it just one meeting that you had with the developer?
I haven't any. I've reached out a few times. I've offered to get together, connect, talk to the architects, do whatever, describe it, and I just put on hold, and then nothing. Then I reached out again after the last session and nothing back.
Okay.
So we haven't had any real communication at all.
Okay, sounds good. So obviously you really didn't have a meeting then is what I'm getting there.
Would
And
love to have had
and obviously too, I can't fault the developer. Like, I mean, they own the land, you don't,
Right.
we don't, so.
Yeah, I don't question profit motive. Profit's good.
Yeah.
It builds a whole bunch of things, but profit at the sake of the city, not so good.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
We can have it all. We can have it all.
Councillor Reitman.
Just wanted to ask Mr. Bush, just so that I'm clear, your suggestion, I thought I heard you say, was that the road, the access road would be on the outside of the buildings, if you will? Is my impression correct?
Yeah, that's another component of it. Great urban villages are pedestrian. Okay, some places they road share a little bit, but the great ones are pedestrian, and that's where they're moving for. Seaside Florida has gone back on it now, making what wasn't pedestrian, now fully pedestrian. So that road that goes in between is going to be a highway. You know, we're talking 8,000 to 10,000 people here. That's the road. It's a highway. Okay, we can swing that out to the 400 and along ESSA and create pedestrian, walkable, livable areas where people can be on the street and it can be nice and it can have shopping and people can have the townhouses like they're describing on a place where a highway is not flying through the middle of it. So it makes way more sense in design. And you know, maybe that's just something that got built in because it was easier to get to the interior row of buildings by putting it through the middle because they weren't there before. So, but they can be serviced from the other side. So so it seemed like they went the path of least resistance on the design, but I don't see why they couldn't do it on the outside, make a much nicer built environment for everybody.
And just a follow-up, Deputy Mayor, to Ms. Banfield. You've heard the discussion that we just had about the location of the road. Does this approval, or this CHIA approval, would it affect that? Could we later on come back and say, oh, well, we want the road to be along the highway? Or once this gets approved, is that off the table?
Through you, Deputy Mayor Thompson, to Councillor Rietma, with the request that the draft plan come back to the City of Barrie for approval, that would be where we could look at road placements and blocks of where the buildings are. So I would believe that there'd be some flexibility in some of the compartmentalizing of the lots, if that makes sense, in terms of like what a draft plan of subdivision would look like.
Just to follow up on that, when you look at the map that's attached to the draft order, it zones all the land along the highways for 45-story buildings, or 145 meters, I think it was. And then it doesn't zone where they're proposing the road. So I'm kind of wondering, does the bylaw that would eventually, or the order that would eventually issue, would it not have to be changed in order to move the road?
Through you, Deputy Mayor Thompson, to Councillor Rietma, I'll take a look at it again, but typically we don't zone roads anyhow. We zone the entire property, so that might have just been more like a mapping piece, because we usually zone the whole property, and if there's roads in between it, we don't zone. There's no road zone, I guess. So we could definitely take a look at that.
But I guess when all's said and done, if the minister were to approve this CHIA, the owner would be entitled to, 100, and I forget now, the 145-meter buildings and a zero setback here, and the setbacks and the height would all be fixed. Is that correct?
Through you, Deputy Mayor Thompson, to Councillor Rietma, the correct things like the height and building height, those types of things would be covered in the zoning order, the CHIA order.
And just my final one, when I read your report, it seemed to me that what you had dealt with in that report was the public circulation and the public comments that we got. Had nothing to do with the planning design or anything like that.
Through you, Deputy Mayor Thompson, to Councillor Rietma. So the circulation and consultation requirements for a CHIA are prescribed through the minister, which is the ability to receive public comments and to have Indigenous consultation. And staff's practice and the two samples have been to just bring that back to council.
Councillor Harris.
Great, thank you, Deputy Mayor Thompson. And thank you, Mr. Bush. And I can confirm that efforts to speak with the developer have been made. I know that, because we've had that together, so thank you for that. I just want to be clear, and you showed, and actually credit to Councilor Morales, because he explained last time we were here that it was this density, now it's this density, next time it could be more density, which you've advocated for tonight. You're saying that based on where it was to where it is, you would like to see more density. And am I correct that you would then put it more on the perimeter? So ideally you would want to put, say right now where you chose to exclude the park, which I can tell you, or the school, which is a really favorable element for the residents who back onto Campbell Avenue. They are very excited about that. So you've excluded that. So is that because you would put height backing onto Campbell Avenue to create that ring of density around the outside?
No, I'm saying, through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm saying that I'm not opposed to more density, but we have to take the cars off the road and create a quality of life there. And we do that by creating jobs, entertainment, shopping, all that kind of stuff in a place where people don't have to own a car. So I'm not a proponent of more density. I'm saying we can do more density, and I wouldn't be against that if we found clever ways through the urban village and an enhanced transportation network in order to remove car trips out of this location. Like, we're talking $1.5 million. By doing an urban village, we're going to save $1.5 million car trips a year out of this fairgrounds.
Thank you. And maybe that's my next question. And I really appreciated the booklet. And again, this is Ward 8 residents right now are very happy with the idea of backing onto a park or a school. That is an outcome that hasn't been to their favor before. So what I wanted to see, and I look at your pictures and they're great. However, I'm seeing 2 Gulf Coast planned communities in Florida. I don't see the density anywhere close, and to be even more dense, as far as an example, to give me a picture. They're beautiful pictures and they're attractive, but they set this expectation. I see vacation villages like Blue Mountain. I see historical 14th century cities like Bordeaux, France, and Sonoma, California, wine country. So again, trying to paint a reasonable picture. We're here in central Ontario, and I can tell you, and you've made the point, and Councilor Morales is right, people have seen density, density plus, and you're saying more density. So I know there's some concern about going even further, which you're suggesting, but that's not the direction I think where people are wanting to go, and it's creating some concern. So, I can't see the density in the examples you provided. Is there something I'm missing?
Yeah, and really hard to get pictures of proper urban villages. Very challenging, okay? But urban villages are about creating a calm community space with people places in the center, so that there's ground level activations, there's patios, there's storefronts, there's restaurants, there's places where community gathers, pocket parks. I'm become a huge fan of pocket parks. Parks don't have to be huge. I've heard the presentation from Parks and Rec and how difficult it is to maintain all of our parks with the budgets. And so the density would probably be in, the easiest path is 5 stories, where they're showing 2 and 3 story, some of the 2 and 3 story townhomes. So you go up to 5 stories, but you're creating some space in between them. Instead of people having yards, they're communal spaces with pedestrian areas that would have pocket parks and playgrounds and people spaces like patios and that sort of thing.
Great, thank you. And
creating a refuge.
Yeah, because I think you mentioned one of the email exchanges, one of the examples was Central Park being a really positive feature of New York City, which we can all agree has density and height. So thank you for your deputation. I appreciate the time and all the efforts going into this, so thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you, Councillor Harris. Mr. Bush, is there anybody else that would? I'll say this. So thank you for your deputation. I look at Park Place, right? Urban Village, adding residential, right? Lots of cars, right? So if you have retail, business, they're going to add big high rises in the middle. It's going to create lots of cars. So, you know, to Councillor Harris's point, you know, we get snow. I know we've had a pretty mild winter, but urban villages are great, but I don't know many people sitting out in, you know, the Spanish stairs in 2 feet of snow.
Right.
It's, you know, so like, I understand. And look, we've talked lots and stuff, and maybe just one question to Ms. Banfield, but thank you for that. The process of the CHIA brings the ministries together to give direction to the development, and it creates the zoning. But we, with an amendment last week, bumped site plan approvals to council back, which, to Mr. Bush's point, erode some of the minor, the density would be set out in the zoning, but the developer could change the plan and decrease or shift a building or, is that my understanding?
Through you, to you, sorry, Deputy Mayor Thompson. So through the amendment last week, the request was that the minister not approve anything other than the zoning, and that the site plan and the draft plan of subdivision would come back to the City of Barrie, not necessarily council because things are delegated, but back to the City of Barrie. That's the way, and for sure, there could be changes to the subdivision, and we don't actually have site plan details for every single building. Presumably, every single building you see on there would actually have a site plan agreement for each building, so we don't have those details right now.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Mr. Bush, as always, thank you for your deputation.
Thank you. Thank you.
I now call Norman Speaks, representing the Barrie Curling Club. On your way down, I first want to say thank you for your time today. We had a very good meeting with a couple of councillors, and taking time out of your day to try to come up with a great solution. I appreciate that. So thank you. I didn't want to take your 5 minutes with that speech, so I didn't want to.
Student Mayor Miller, Deputy Mayor Thompson, councillors, staff, thank you for the opportunity to come forward and address this forum this evening. I'd like to reiterate that the Barrie Curling Club is not opposing any development. It's not opposing this development. It has no opinions with respect to the density of this development or the form. The Barrie Curling Club is not opposed to expediting this development. We understand the requirement for housing. We understand that it's urgent, and yes, let's get on with it. We do, however, reserve some concerns with respect to this very new CHIA process and what it will mean for the City of Barrie once submitted to the province and returned. I'll get back to that in a minute. I'm disappointed to report at this time, again, that the developer and the BCC have yet to come to an agreement with respect to the BCC situation and its position in the development going forward. There remain a number of issues yet to be fully addressed and resolved, not the least of which, but not solely, the footprint. The footprint as shown on the developer's master plan up here, and whether or not that turns out to be the actuality down the road. The BCC, and thank you, Deputy Mayor Thompson and Councillors Harris and Harvey and the Chief Administrative Officer for speaking to us. The nature of this deputation has evolved significantly from what I thought it was going to be this morning, yesterday, 2 weeks ago. But this should in no way take away from the fact that there's an awful lot that needs to be done to sort this out. The BCC, thank you, gentlemen, has received assurances that the council and by extension the City of Barrie recognizes the value of the curling club to the City of Barrie, is supportive of a continuance of the BCC's contribution going forward, and fully understands the challenges facing the BCC solely as a consequence of this development. We are assured that the city, the council, has a way forward and has identified a methodology whereby they can continue to provide support to the BCC even within the framework of CHIA. And we are assured that there will be enough flexibility when the order comes back from the province, assuming, and if we could put the second slide up there, please, whoever's controlling that, assuming that this is what turns out in terms of zoning, that there will be sufficient flexibility that alterations can be made right up to the 11th hour. We trust in those assurances. Now, I don't want anybody to think that the resolution of the footprint is all we have to do. I mean, there are other issues going forward. The BCC has been a self-supporting nonprofit institution for the last 150 years, approximately. Although at this point, I really would like to recognize and thank the city for their contributions over the last 2 years in support of some capital upgrades that were very necessary for the building. Much appreciated. But on a day-to-day operating basis, we're self-supporting. We'd like to continue that way, but we will not be able to continue that way if we have imposed upon us additional capital expenses up front and ongoing operating costs solely as a result of this development. We understand that this is purely a landlord and tenant matter looking at it from the outside, but we would suggest it's part and parcel of the whole, and it's inextricably entwined with the future and the survival of the Barrie Curling Club. This will require, 37 seconds, go. This will require commitment, imagination, and flexibility on the part of the three significant participants in this, and that is the developer, the Barrie Curling Club, and the city. And the flexibility is sort of paramount. We're all going to have to move forward together, and the sooner we start talking together as a threesome, the better off we're going to be, and the quicker we're going to sort this.
Thank you, sir.
I thank you for your attention. I thank you for your assistance. I look forward to a continuing good relationship between the Barrie Curling Club and the city, and in fact, the developer. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaks, for your deputation. Is there any members of council that would like to speak? Councilor Morales.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Thompson. Thank you for the presentation, Norm. I'll make a joke here. You did great with your 5 minutes. If I had a timer, every time I spoke, it would be horrible. So you did.
My fire and brimstone was a lot longer.
Yeah. And also, just before I get to my question, after the meeting, if you can send me your contact information, if you wish.
I will.
I would have loved to have been part of that meeting. As it's come up tonight a couple of times, there's lots I really care about this file, and there's lots of design things and concepts, and I've taken hours of meetings and discussions that I've asked for with Craig Bush and staff on the rail spur and various other things. So I definitely want to be at the table as much as I can, as appropriate. And the reason is, which actually alludes to your point about getting everybody on the same table, having the conversation. Just the fact, I'm not blaming anybody that wasn't at the meeting. I tried searching for information, thinking I had it, I didn't, over a month ago, so that's on me. But the fact that I wasn't at the meeting. I didn't ask you directly, but I was searching for the email. And the fact, so the fact that like we're not, the stakeholders are feeling like some communication isn't occurring, I think speaks to the need to have, like you said, more of a three stakeholder partnership conversation. So my question to you is, you were present for Mr. Bush's presentation a bit ago. How would, and I know you are advocating for the curling club operations. I understand that. That's priority number one. But do you see an urban village and a more community integrated development as something the curling club, as long as the operations things are addressed? So let's assume for the purpose of this question, those things are addressed. Do you see an urban village thing being a net positive for the curling club and a net negative, or no impact in your opinion based on that?
Notwithstanding, I'm pretty quick to express opinions. You've caught me flat-footed. I don't really feel qualified to comment on this. The density of the population around us, once it gets done, can only be a good thing for the curling club. The curling club can only be a good thing for this particular development, in that it is providing something of a community hub. It is, however, going to be a horror during construction. I don't know what else I can say. Sorry.
Okay, no, perfect. I appreciate your honest response on that. Thank you.
I will ensure that you get my contact details, and I'd be happy to speak to you, or in fact anyone else. And I'd like to remind you all that March the 9th, this coming Saturday, is open house at the Curling Club. To the extent that I don't see you all there, I will be disappointed.
Councillor Harris.
Great, thank you, Deputy Mayor Thompson, and thank you, Mr. Speaker. It was a pleasure to meet with you and the group today, and I appreciated the idea and invitation by Mr. Marquis to have us together, and certainly Deputy Mayor Thompson having been there, and Councillor Harvey, you took the time to attend the December 11th meeting that we were all invited to when you were here last time, and I attended, so I appreciated you having us back to have a meeting to discuss this further. And just for people's comfort, we didn't discuss urban villages, we didn't discuss design, we discussed the matters that were specifically important and germane to the curling club. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you. So is there something, and we've talked, and again, Councillor Harvey and I made the time to go to the meeting with the full team from Green World there and the curling club there. Is there something moving forward, and we talked about how this will ultimately come back to the city, and the issue of parking being a key issue for the curling club. Is there something we can do in the next month or so as this effort to connect and communicate and really collaborate to move forward with the curling club and Green World? Is there a role we can play to help with that happening again? Because we certainly would like to do that.
Absolutely, sir. We're trying to organize the next meeting between ourselves and Green World, and in fact, Mr. Windle and I spoke about that today. Green World is unable to support a meeting tomorrow. We are unable to support a meeting on the 14th. I have suggested the week following, or even the week following that, and I have suggested in my last communication to Green World, which was in fact this afternoon, that representatives from City Council may wish to attend. It would certainly be welcome to attend on our part and welcome to contribute. I would hope, sir, in a like manner that you contributed today. I thought that was fabulous today.
Great, thank you, and so did I. And just maybe one further question, based on our discussions today, which I thought as well were fabulous. From our conversation today, it sounded like it was pretty clear that the city getting parkland very near the curling club was a potential advantage for the curling club. Is that correct that came out today?
Yes, it is. It is going to provide, or potentially going to provide, flexibility in making minor alterations to what is being proposed by the developer, and we welcome that. And we would be flexible, and I'm trusting that the assurances we received are in fact correct, that we will have that flexibility.
Great, thank you. And I really appreciated you bringing the slides that showed the breakdown of the land as proposed and how much space the park actually is of that property. And then there's the other space that's over by the former De Vilbus, I call it, factory area, but which is going to be what it'll be. And we hear there might be opportunities for that to be more than what it is. So
I think, yes, I think.
sorry, I wasn't finished, just waiting for that conversation to stop, sorry. Sorry, go ahead, yeah.
I think as we discussed today, that there are things that we can do which will alleviate the situation with respect to the footprint. I don't think we necessarily have to be too far away on that, but there are a couple of things that are going to have to be sorted, and they can only be done if there are 3 parties sitting at the table, but they can be done relatively quickly if the parties approach this with an open mind and flexibility. Once again, there are other issues which we will address once we've sorted a footprint.
Great, thank you very much. That's all.
Councillor Reed.
Thank you for coming, Mr. Speak. And I'm going to ask the developer the same question I'm going to ask you. If council were to approve this tonight, do you think that the interests of the curling club would be damaged or set back in any way? I recognize this is largely a landlord-tenant situation, but I don't want to have the city sort of influence the situation one way or the other. So is it your view that if we approve this, what is your view if we approve this tonight? Will it affect your position?
Boy, loaded question that. I don't understand enough of the CHIA process to be absolutely 100% assured that we're not closing doors. And the reason I say that is I'm not entirely sure that the people in the provincial government who were charged with executing this process fully understand the process. We have attempted to make inquiries and get a full understanding of this, and we do have volunteers with the background, the training, the abilities to understand this. I have been assured today that should the boundaries as defined by the developer in their CHIA application relating to the curling club, should they need to move, then we will still be able to do that after the zoning comes back from the province. I can only go by the assurances that I've been provided, sir.
Mr. Speak, thank you for your deputation. And I do want to say I appreciate sitting here for the first time and stuff, but I've sat over there for, 6 years, and a lot of people try to answer questions they don't know the answer to. Mm-hmm. And I appreciate your honesty saying that you're not in the position to answer those questions just to try to muddy the waters. Mm-hmm. So from where I'm sitting, that means a lot, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
I will now move on to the third and final deputation, and I will now call on Ryan Windle of behalf of Green World Construction, Inc. to develop your deputation. Welcome. You have 5 minutes as the other deputants.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Thompson. If maybe IT could bring up that master plan, I appreciate Mr. Speak providing that drawing. We didn't have to provide a duplicate, so it might be helpful to have that up for us. I'll try and get through my statements as quick as possible. Certainly here to answer questions, try to provide some feedback based on some of the deputations that have been made tonight. But I will say good evening, again, Deputy Mayor Thompson, members of council, staff, members of the public. For your reference, my name is Ryan Windle. I'm VP of Land Development for Green World, Inc. We're the applicant. I did want to take this opportunity to appear tonight to thank staff and council further work on this file and indicate that we support the motion to forward our zoning to the province for consideration through the CHIA process. And that's a good reminder. That's what is being asked of council tonight, is to ratify that committee recommendation to simply send the zoning up for consideration. I think staff would clarify that too, or has clarified. The zoning is not being done tonight. It's just to send it up through the CHIA process. And I do want to say, with as much passion as I can, with this plan, we believe in this project. It has the potential to contribute over 4,000 units to Barrie's housing stock, an area that is designated as a strategic growth area, an intensification corridor, and is in close proximity to one of Barrie's major transit station areas, obviously the Allendale GO Station. We believe the project addresses a number of strategic priorities, which makes it a win-win for us, the city, and the province. It addresses the provincial housing initiative, 1.5 million homes by 2031. I think council is very familiar with that. Certainly, City of Barrie's housing pledge, 23,000 units by 2031. We contribute to that, roughly 17% through this proposal. We believe it provides critical mass, an area that's designated for high-density development, which supports affordable housing, transit expansion, and pedestrian-friendly communities. It does address council's stated priorities, such as encouraging a range of housing options to make housing attainable, expand and maximize access to parks and recreation opportunities, support active transportation and pedestrian connections, and advocate to other levels of government for support, all identified priorities by this council. And it would be remiss if I didn't mention, it also includes the redevelopment of a brownfield, which I think is very important to both the city and the province. I would like to highlight, and there's been some discussion about our original proposal and now our current proposal. We submit that our latest submission, we have listened to the comments that we have received to date. We take that to heart, whether it was one round of comments from some of the city departments and certainly the public comments. In response to those, we've scaled back some of the height. We've now included 50 Wood Street as entirely green space. We've increased the amount of commercial to 5,000 square meters and concentrated the retail at the street, essentially fronting Essa Road. And in response to some of Mr. Bush's comments, I will note that yellow color that you see on this map generally represents a mixed-use zoning. So that offers opportunity for not only residential but street-level commercial. We believe this program or this project is extremely pedestrian-friendly. The street that's provided is a public street that provides a 23-meter right-of-way based on recommendations from staff, and that offers the opportunity to provide sidewalks on both sides of the street. We anticipate that each building will have street-level activity, whether it's residential use, an amenity space, or again, critical retail commercial on Essa Road, which is your identified intensification corridor. That's exactly where it's planned to go. We've located the highest density and the tallest buildings at the farthest point from the existing neighborhood. And based on some of the discussions and past committee recommendations, we've incorporated the school block. And if not used as a school, it would be a park. With that being said, approximately 40% of the property is now identified as either open space or school, not including our private amenity spaces, an additional park space that might be included as part of the townhouse development next to the school block. So we've listened to that and provided responses in our design. I will remind council that our plans have been created by experienced planners, engineers, and an internationally renowned architect that has significant experience in designing similar scale developments. We certainly believe in this plan at this stage to provide at least a proof of concept for the zoning, and that's what this is. This will evolve over time. There are future applications that will come along that will deal with design.
Thank you. Sorry. Mr. Wood.
If I could conclude by saying, not to put words in staff's mouths, but typical subdivision processes allow opportunity for urban design briefs, urban design reports, architectural control designs to be part of the conditions. So that would be part of the later process. I would like... Okay.
Sorry, there's lots of people who think developers get the upper hand and stuff, so I just
Okay.
don't. Yeah, it's
I
not
will-
fair. Our deputants were cut off at 5 minutes. I got to hold you to that. I apologize. So, thank you.
Okay, I will take questions and certainly provide additional
Perfect.
comment through the questions.
First, I have Councillor Corson, please.
Through you, Deputy Mayor, to our guest. Do you want to, after reviewing Vision Barrie's presentation, do you feel that this, as presented today, fulfills the definition of a urban community?
Through your chair to the councillor, short answer is yes, in that we've provided a concept plan at this point that is supported by detailed planning justifications, both the original reports and the submission that was made with the CHIA request. Our professional planner, us as the developer, believe that this is good planning. It provides an opportunity for good design. Again, reminding council that this is a concept plan to provide proof of concept for the zoning at this point. It will evolve over time. There are other processes, like the subdivision process and the site plan process, that we do support coming back to the municipality to address some of those deep technical designs. And it would also indicate that, sure, we will review through whatever process there is any comments, any submissions that are made, whether it's through directly to the province, if this goes up through the CHIA process, or if it was the typical development application process, we would take in that review and those comments, like from Mr. Bush, and consider that. But we believe in this plan. It's again, a concept that is, we put a lot of thought into it, a lot of design thought, and we really believe that it provides at least the beginning opportunity for a great plan that would ultimately be delivered for the City of Barrie.
And the conversation that happened around the table, I guess, I don't want to get out of scope because I appreciate that we are talking only about zoning this evening. But when or if this comes all back around, I am really looking forward to having those deep discussions about how we can develop a really forward-thinking, future-thinking, community-based development on this site. Thank you.
Councillor Rima, and then I have Councillor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I have three questions. And the first one is the same one that I asked Mr. Speaks. If council does approve this tonight, do you, and I recognize it's a landlord-tenant matter, but do you feel that either you or the curling club would be prejudiced in some way if we were to approve this tonight?
Through you, Deputy Mayor Thompson. Prejudice, I guess that's a difficult term to rectify in my mind. I sort of mulled the answer around in my mind. We firmly believe that the issue with the curling club is a lease issue. Again, tonight is simply sending a zoning request up to up to the province. Zoning lines, even if they were created tonight, wouldn't determine exactly what the block configurations are. That happens through the subdivision process. And again, not speaking for staff, but my understanding certainly is that those zoning lines ultimately would follow block lines or right-of-way lines. That's the interpretation. That's how zoning works. So no, I don't believe that this action prejudices our ability to work with the curling club, as we have done over the last number of months. Many submissions back and forth, many meetings. We think that we can work out, hopefully, the lease items and not being prejudiced by the zoning process continuing forward.
Second question is, are these apartment buildings that you're proposing here, are they condominium or rental or a mix?
We are in the business, through you, Chair Thompson, or Deputy Mayor Thompson, we are in the business of building condominiums. This is what our plan is right now. As we get deeper into the process, we may consider other tenures, but I would remiss if I indicated to council that we were in the business of purpose-built rentals. We are not. So we anticipate these to be condos of many different sizes, different types. There's a number of different built forms that we're proposing that sort of gets to the issue of choice and potentially keeping prices in check and providing opportunity for many different ways of living. But no, we are not in the business of undertaking purpose-built rental. That's not the indication at this point.
Okay, thank you for that. And my final question is, what percentage of these units do you expect to be affordable?
Through you, Deputy Mayor Thompson. Again, thank you for the question to the council. That's a very difficult question for me to answer today because there's many thoughts on how we determine affordability. Our proposal is, again, to provide different types of built forms, different size of units, different price points. That creates an affordability. Certainly adding to supply creates prices or helps to keep prices in check. We haven't identified any specific percentage of affordability, but that's partly because we don't necessarily fully understand what that affordability number would be. I've certainly done some research with the municipalities programs. There's through the new strategy that's been released recently, there's discussion of the 400,000 point being an affordable number. But I understand the province is still working on a document that they're to issue that would clarify what the affordability thresholds are. So, our estimation right now is, again, just simply providing that mix of uses and tenures and types of units. There's not a specific percentage of affordability being identified. Again, that's hard to define what that is.
Thank you. Members, just a reminder. The CHIA has the opportunity to come back with 2 school boards, which would change the buildings because it would request 12 acres. So to ask, in all fairness, right, if we reduce the area that's developable due to the school boards would change everything. So I just want to make it clear that, the developer has given an answer that to the best of his ability, but remember, the CHIA is to determine whether that could be 2 school boards or just the park or a single school board. So and I appreciate your answer, but this is zoning, the application.
No, thank you,
Yes,
and through you, Deputy Mayor Thompson, and thanks for that reminder as well. So it was my understanding, I think the impetus behind the CHIA for me was because of the issue with the school boards, right? They were requesting, 12 acres, and the developer's only providing 6, and so that was the main issue. We have to take this to the ministry so that they can figure out how to proceed with the land for the school. So given that, I'm just wondering your opinion. It seems to me that going through the CHIA process, in one hand, yes, we need it because we need the government ministry to decide what to do with the school issue, but then we're also giving up some control. And so in your perception, is it of more value to be going through the CHIA process and getting, direction from the ministry when it comes to this zoning for the school boards, but giving up a certain level of control because, again, they're going to dictate height and restrictions. They could come back with something completely different. So what's the thought from the developer's perspective on that?
Sure, through Deputy Mayor Thompson to the councillor. Those are a couple of things I had in my presentation in terms of acknowledging that giving up local control is a trade-off in this particular instance, because yes, I believe through some discussions with staff and whatnot, I think we do believe that this CHIA allows for the balancing of all the provincial interests from the school to affordability, to the relationship to transit and the MTO and Highway 400, balancing all of those issues. We do believe that this new CHIA process being available, does provide, in this instance, an excellent opportunity to try and balance all of those provincial interests. Understanding again that the municipality had some interest in that too. I've heard some comments from the mayor and others that's a driving force. So, I would be remiss again if I said, if this was a local process, we'd be glad to continue to hammer away with staff and ultimately come up with a recommendation report. But in the discussions that we've had, balancing all the interests, we certainly believe that the CHIA process provides this unique opportunity. But it does come with a little bit of trade-off, and it's a little bit of a risk for us too, because honestly, we don't know what the province will say. But we are putting our best foot forward. We've written a draft zoning bylaw that provides a starting point for the province. It's based on a proof of concept, which you see the master plan, you see some of the elevations. It's deep design. In fact, I might suggest it's greater design level that you might get on your typical zoning applications. Long story short, there's trade-offs, but we believe that it could be a process that would prove beneficial to both us and the municipality.
Okay, thank you. And I don't know if anyone can answer this, but we have no idea from a timeline perspective. There's no timelines that government, no, I'm seeing shaking of heads. So we have no idea. This could be 6 months or 6 years before we hear a response. Hopefully not 6 years, but I just know how government works, and I'm interested to see the timeline for this. And just my final question, again, as a developer, I know you don't owe anybody any time, and I'm sure you get requests all the time from residents to meet and have input and perspective. But I do, hearing Mr. Bush present tonight and understanding that he is passionate about the city and the vision of Barrie, and the developer doesn't live in the community. The developer's not going to live in this complex. So, I do appreciate when residents in the city have input, who have expertise, and I just wonder, is there a willingness from the developer to meet with Mr. Bush going forward to really look at how can we make sure we're incorporating as much of the urban design elements as possible? You mentioned that you've got a variety of expertise, and I bet you do, but we have a local expert with a local passion here as well, and that I think has, gained some respect around this table, and I think it certainly would go a long way to have a meeting. 15-minute meeting. I don't think it's too much to ask, so I do hope maybe there's a willingness there going forward.
Through Deputy Mayor Thompson to the councillor. Yes, the short answer is yes. I think Mr. Massoud has shown his willingness to meet with key interested parties. I have not met with Mr. Bush myself. We certainly divide our labor up a little bit, but as we go, glad to meet with critical interested parties that have some information to offer, understanding that we'll try and address those items through whatever process is available. And again, if this goes up to the province, well, then there's some discussion at the provincial level about the zoning and how that occurs, but then how the rest of the process occurs and how you can build in some of this commentary about urban design and architectural design and other deeper technical items.
Councillor Morales.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Thompson. Councillor Hamilton, you stole one of my questions. Will you meet with Craig Bush? And listen, it's the uniqueness. Also, I challenge you to have a 15-minute meeting with Craig Bush. And that's not an insult, that's a compliment. And I think the fact that, this is a big file. You have to meet with lots of people. I get that. So I don't want to throw any shade at that or insult. And I think what you're hearing tonight is you're seeing a lot of passion that we have to get it right. There's been so many people fighting to make sure it gets done right. And I'll be remiss if I don't say this, because it should be said, there's 11 of us and we all own the vote, but he gets the phone calls. I get to say the sound bites. He gets to deal with the follow-up. So, that is something that needs to be highlighted on this file. I've said it before and I'll say it again. But I do want to address some questions because, again, I haven't had a chance to meet you, so nice to have you here. My Councillor Corser had my colleague Councillor Corser, you're not my councillor, my colleague Councillor Corser had a great question. After having seen Craig's vision, is there anything you'd change? Now, I didn't expect you to say yes, and I loved your answer, but that said, there was one specific line you said, and I'm putting you unfairly in the spot. There is a question, a very important question at the end of this. With all due respect, you said there's been lots of detailed planning justification. With all due respect, and this is not your file, I've seen, and this is public information, I've seen a detailed planning justification report justifying with a signature and designation at the end of it, trying to justify a one-story multi-drive-through business, brand new, not built yet or approved, on Bayfield Street, where intensification and height should happen. And they're trying to justify new drive-throughs, and not a reconstruction, not the KFC, a brand new drive-throughs with Bayfield frontage right at the road. And they literally signed it and said, this is good planning for the city of Barrie. So now, it wasn't a planner from Barrie that signed it. They did it out of their GTA office. Maybe that's why. I don't know. I'm going to finish that with I don't know so I don't get sued. But specifically, having heard vision and ideas from Craig Bush, who is not a planner, is there an opportunity to maybe address issues such as the bisecting road, for example? That road bisects the buildings from the lower density, so you have more instances of interactions with cars and pedestrians. And the reason I bring that one up is with the chia that happened in my ward earlier, I brought that up to the applicant at the time and I said, you have a little parquet that you want people to use, but you're running the main road that feeds the two buildings. Don't run the road between the building and the parquet. Have the parquet attached to the building, have the road elsewhere. And they changed it. They changed it, but before we got to the chia, actually Ms. Banfield sent the email like 2 days beforehand and said, there's actually some changes done. So are there opportunities, maybe not before tonight, because this is where we are, but are there opportunities for the applicant to take some of the feedback, whether it's from members of council, the community, or Mr. Bush, and make some of those alterations while it's with the province?
Through Deputy Mayor Thompson to Councilor Morales. Again, short answer is yes. Again, we have to, I haven't scrutinized, our planners haven't scrutinized deeply, say, Mr. Bush's suggestions, but there's some value to them, and urban design and streetscape and an appropriate layout of streets and blocks is a typical discussion as part of plans of subdivision. So short answer, we'd be glad to consider as it goes up to the province, if it does, to identify if there are any revisions, and we're already doing that, right? We're already considering other comments, other issues. We've shown our good faith. We've shown our ability to try and be a partner in this, to already have taken an original plan and made some changes that address the initial round of comments. So like any planning application, we would take in that feedback and reminding that city staff ultimately will be writing or making approvals for subdivisions and site plans. There'll be an ability to affect those processes. And Councilor Morales, while I have you, I certainly will say to you, we understand the magnitude, and I think even me personally, having spent a number of years here at the City of Barrie, the importance of the Barrie Fairgrounds and how long it's remained vacant. So we want to get it right too. And what we're trying to do is at every step, give the best possible information with the best possible justifications to move us to the next step. And in this case, it's not a working back and forth on resubmissions and coming forward with a staff report like you typically have for zoning and subdivision. It's getting it to the province and then getting to what they may or may not approve based on the feedback and the requests and the motions by council.
I appreciate your comprehensive response there. One of my other questions is the applicant open to being flexible on things that may be outside that would create variances? And I'll give you a specific example. So right now, city's policy, it's not the applicant, but our policy says that our mixed use and our ground floor retail has to be activated towards the intensification corridor. This is a unique site because usually of sites, you just have little slivers of like houses, maybe a corner. But on this one, the activation towards Essa Road for the retail would be kind of weird because let's be honest, 8 to 10 lane Essa Road is not exactly a place where we want to go for a stroll. So we wouldn't want to go to a restaurant or an activation of a pharmacy or something. However, this is a unique situation where actually activating the retail inward towards a potential future village can have the activation that benefits the curling club, that benefits your bottom line, that benefits our long-term residents. However, you just created a variance. Because now you're deviating away from our policy mandated, so that's on us. But if there was a willingness from council, 6+ votes, working with staff, is that something that technically creates another variance in your table? And I know applicants like to see less
Councilor
yellow
Morales,
on those tables.
this is a site plan question. Like, And Mr. Wendell, you're asking him to answer questions on the fly here, like, but this is a zoning application to the CHIA. We're now asking for variances and all that stuff, which is site plan. So, just out of curiosity, do you know how long that this process has started?
In what sense?
Like,
Sorry,
from day one, when you took over the property and submitted your first application?
We're coming up December 2022, so year and a half, almost 2 years.
Can you answer one question for me? How many calls did you get last week from Wednesday till today from members of council?
I didn't get any personally.
Perfect. Let's stay on topic, please. That's a site
Sorry,
plan.
your question, we don't have his number. I think it's been established that, like, we don't have contact with him, so the point you're trying to prove isn't really a point.
No, but we're asking site plan questions, right? It's like, the application come at general committee last week, and now we're asking for this gentleman to change his site plan at council.
I didn't ask him that.
You were asking him
No, I
about
was saying a
variances
future
and stuff.
opportunity.
That's site plan. This is zoning, stick to zoning.
Okay.
Thank you.
If I may, I apologize if I'm interjecting here a little bit, but I think, again, zoning, Councilor Morales, just to remind you, the zoning for those areas is set up to be mixed use. So then it just becomes a detailed design element to determine how to orient the retail. I think we've done enough detail review to understand the grades and the widths that we have available facing ESSA, that it would present an opportunity for pedestrian level connectivity. But thank you, Deputy Mayor Thompson, but the zoning does address that. It provides the flexibility to provide commercial in all of those blocks.
And I'll ask you a question. I'm going to clarify why I'm asking the question and then reframe the question in the spirit of zoning, because this one I have lots of experience with. So there was a development proposal for zoning in my ward, and they were asking for zoning. So they wanted to go to 11 stories, and they wanted to be able to build their building and get zoning. They weren't at site plan yet. I don't even think site plan has occurred, Deputy Mayor Thompson. And the thing with zoning was, when they came in, they followed our rules, so kind of like pushing the retail towards the road. And when it was coming forward, I saw kind of a similar issue. I said the activation of, the restaurant is on Yonge Street. I think it should be more on Montgomery. And the response I got from staff is, that's a site plan issue, but if you want a surety that that's going to happen specifically the way you believe it to be, so it's not activated on Yonge Street, which I believe is eight lanes, then delay the rezoning, get them to do a resubmission with kind of the concept plans that you were alluding to that you've voluntarily provided, or just approve it and take care of it at site plan. So I've been in a situation with zoning where, you're in zoning and you say, trust the process, it'll be done at site plan, but if you get to site plan, there's also a possibility, I'm not saying you're doing it, I'm not saying that applicant's doing it, there's a possibility where you say, well, we're sticking to the standards that the city has provided. So if we don't bring this up during zoning now, what confidence do I get? What confidence do my residents get? What confidence do the people here in the stands get that these things will, if not addressed tonight, because he's not going to pull up a laptop and fix it for us, at least on the record can address. So that's why I'm bringing it up, because I've had an experience of a rezoning, not a site plan, in my ward where these issues, where zoning and site plan do intermingle a bit and coexist. So let me reframe the question for zoning. If there was a will of council to change almost the rules that you have to abide for, even though we're at zoning, is that something that you can reasonably do later during the site plan stage?
Through you, Deputy Mayor Thompson, to Councillor. Yes, I mean, there's any design elements we can consider. Again, I think the operative answer still is, and I'll reiterate myself, the zoning bylaw has been designed with a great deal of flexibility to provide that opportunity within those blocks. So the permission is not an issue. It then becomes, again, trying to work with staff to determine the proper orientation, and if there's some desire to consider activating that bisecting street with some retail, glad to consider that. But at this point, our view is to balance all of the city's interests in the existing policies and the guidance and the direction related to the intensification corridor, which is ESSA. We've oriented that 5,000 square meters to ESSA Road. That's exactly what the municipality has planned for and wants. And it's then we are doing our part to set the tone, and as future development applications come between our property and the GO station, for example, ESSA will be activated that way. That's the priority. That for us, that's a priority. But sure, glad to discuss some of those deeper elements through the other parts of the process. But the zoning would allow it.
Perfect. Thank you for your time.
Councillor Nixon.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I had 2 or 3 questions. 2 of them have already been answered by earlier colleagues. I have one more that I'm going to reach out separately, if I may, in the next day or 2 and talk to you privately. Because it does involve site plan. It is a little different than what we are talking about, coincidentally. So that's that. Thank you.
Councillor Nagusi.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Thompson. So I have a couple questions. If this motion passes tonight and the province expedites the process, how ready are you or your client to put shovel in the ground?
Through you, Deputy Mayor Thompson, to the councillor. We are ready to move as fast as possible through every part of the process that we can. I think we've shown that with staff in terms of our applications, our responses, our resubmission related to this CHIA with some redesigns. We continue our working on our technical reports. We continue to work on 50 Wood Street and the environmental situation regarding that. So my answer is, at each stage, we're willing to go as fast as we can to get through to zoning, to get through to subdivision approval, and ultimately get to blocks that are created that you can start to apply for site plan for. We're committed to that. But we have to get through that process before we even think about marketing and then ultimately construction. But, I think we've shown, and I hope staff would attest to it, that we've shown every good effort to try and keep the process moving, keep our submissions moving, do the proper work that we need to do to answer questions and answer to issues, and ultimately lead to construction as soon as possible. But we have to go through these other parts of the process first.
Follow up, if I may, Deputy Mayor. Thank you. So how long is the construction schedule? And how long before people will be living in the units? And my other question is, do you plan to build all at once or in phases?
Through you, Deputy Mayor Thompson, to the councillor, with a project of this scale, we assume there's going to be certain phasing. For example, there may be the road and the townhouses and the single building fronting onto ESSA Road first. But we haven't fully vetted that. That's something, again, that can be discussed through the subdivision process. Unfortunately, unlike Mr. Massoud, the owner, I don't have that construction schedule sort of mind all the way through. I can certainly try and put my mind to that and answer that for you at a later date, but certainly getting through the provincial zoning process, not sure how long that takes. A few months. We get through the subdivision process in the next year or 2. We have to construct roads, services, another year and a half. So you're 4 or 5, 3 to 5 years away from something potentially physically being available for residents, assuming everything goes as smoothly as possible. And we all know, the planning process often isn't as smooth as we hope. But if the process goes smoothly, we're optimistic about trying to get something physically done as soon as we can.
Thanks so much. Thank you for your answer.
I have one more councillor to speak, unless the student mayor would like to chime in at this thing.
No pressure.
Councillor Harris.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Thompson. I think we may have set a record for the amount of time for 3 deputations. So on the plus side, we set a record tonight, I think. And thank you. One thing when you, in your introduction, you have contacts to Barrie and then context for this property. I think it's really important. and it was pleasing to hear that you understand Barrie and how this, as you can tell, this is a not a Ward 8 property, it's a community property, and as witnessed by Envision Barrie and the curling club and everybody's interest. We all have curling club members across of our wards, and it's just one of those iconic sites for Barrie. So it's great to know that you have a Barrie connection to understand that piece of how it's important. One thing you said, I just wanted to, again, because I'm the one who represents the folks in the backyard of this property, Campbell, Wood Street, Alfred, you'd mentioned that at present, 40% of the property is either going to be green space or the school or park. And can you say with confidence that that won't go down as this process moves forward? That percentage of open or green space is not going to go down.
Through you, Deputy Mayor Thompson, the answer is we don't anticipate that changing. That comes through certain direction. We are committed to working through with the municipality and the province to deliver on those amenities that have been put forward. We put forward that master plan for that very reason, to show some commitment to the school, and then ultimately the backup plan, which is the park. So we anticipate that to survive.
Wonderful. So from your perspective, there's no initiative that you would be taking that would see that number go down. That's fair to say.
Not at this point.
Thank you. And I appreciated the interest in meeting with Mr. Bush, and I know he's put a great deal of time, effort into this, and I know there's been effort. So I'm pleased to hear you say that you would meet to just discuss, and we've talked about other opportunities to bring the urban village design to the community at large, and we've talked about that as well. So for other sites that may be potential opportunities in Barrie, so there's hope in that as well. I also, we have the curling club members here tonight, and again, I think in the spirit of collaboration and moving forward together, I understand that their hope is to have a meeting in the next 3 weeks or so, just to have that kind of sit down. I get the impression that the parties are close. Is that something, again, that you and your team is willing to do? And if council members are available to attend, would you entertain that idea to have a meeting of the three real principal parties to do that?
Through you, Deputy Mayor Thompson, to the councillor, thanks for that question. I appreciate it, because I didn't get a chance to say a great deal about the curling club, but I did touch on it. Again, I think we've shown our commitment, getting to know Mr. Speak and the group very well. We appreciate what their interests are. We're trying to do our best to give them the information that they need to provide us with some feedback. Mr. Speak is correct. We're working on the next meeting. Again, with the reality of trying to stay focused on that lease discussion, which at some point will be a confidential arrangement discussion, but fully willing to have meetings that are open to council members showing up and talking through the issues, and just trying to make sure that we separate that zoning discussion and how the subdivision process works and what we're dealing with the curling club, which is really a private lease, but fully committed to continuing to work with Mr. Speak and his group. I think we've shown that over time.
Great, thank you. And that targeted discussion was something we really were able to do today and focus on the key issues. And I think that effort would be able to be maintained as well. I had one other question, and it was something that came up last week, and so you might not have had a chance to really think on it, but it was a creative amendment that Councilor Morales put forward, which was to investigate the advantage of using the existing rail. And I wondered if there's thoughts, I know there's talk about concerns about parking and moving people. We're close to a transit hub. And have you had much chance to think on what that might do for the opportunity for this site to be less car-driven and having different options for moving people around?
Through you, Deputy Mayor Thompson, to the councillor, have not put a great deal of thought into it, but certainly had some internal discussions about the opportunity that it presents. Exactly how it may turn out, there's a lot of, your mind starts to turn to all the technical items that would need to fall into place, but certainly open to that discussion. No issue with the part of the motion that is being directed to your own staff members to investigate, and we'd be glad to be part of those discussions. I think we would acknowledge that anything that provides something innovative like that to provide other modes of transportation other than the car, to provide access, that's just good planning in the world that we live in today, and particularly considering the type of development we're proposing, and to say that density supports that discussion. That's exactly one of the reasons why the density is being proposed. So open to that discussion.
Great. Thank you. And the excitement over that, I maybe thought my last question, but my last question is simple. I know there's been discussion about the possibility of this site being even more dense. Am I clear that there's no intention as we stand today with the zoning going, that Greenville has any intention to make this more dense than it was currently presented?
Right now, through Deputy Mayor Thompson to the councillor, right now our proposal is our proposal. We think it balances the proper mix. I think Mr. Massoud would say if he could have 50 stories, he'd take 50 stories. But that's, again, we've kind of got a sweet spot at this point in time. We're committed to that. We'll see how the discussion goes with the zoning and again, in the future processes. Again, the zoning is fairly flexible with some specific items like height and some building separation being set and some setbacks. But right now, our proposal is what it is, and that's what the density looks like.
Great. So thank you. And maybe just to recap, there's no plan to reduce the open or green space. There's no plan to increase the density. There's an interest in the rail spur, and there's a commitment to meet with the curling club to really get those key items sorted out in the next few weeks or months or whatever it takes. But that commitment is there. Is that fair? A fair summary?
Correct.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. That's it.
We're
That's
good?
all.
That's it?
I can honestly say this. I've never been so sick of hearing my name. But thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Everybody's good? Anybody need the washroom? Everybody? Councillor Harris, I believe you have the motions.
That's section D of the second general committee report dated February 28th. Oh, sorry.
I bet you're missing Mayor Nuttall by this point.
I blame all the great information I had from Mr. Bush. I had all his paperwork here mixed up with the with the amendments. So I apologize, everyone. So I have section. Yeah, I don't have it. B. Is that it?
Student Mayor, you've learned so much today.
I know. Section A.
Yeah, there should be a section A.
And is there a C?
Yeah, there's C, and then you've got these.
Okay. We start with A, right? That's how the alphabet works? Right. Okay. That section A of the Second General Committee report dated February 28th, 2024, now circulated, be received.
Moved by Councillor Harris and second by Councillor Harvey that Section A, the Second General Committee report dated February 28, 2024, now circulated, be received. This is the report of the Community and Safety Committee dated February 6th and the report of Finance and Responsible Governance. Any comments? I call the vote. Unanimous.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Harvey, that Section B of the Second General Committee report be dated February 28th, 2024, now circulated, be adopted.
Moved by Councillor Harris, second by Councillor Harvey, that Section B of the Second General Committee report dated February 28, 2024, now circulated, be adopted. This is implement a road safety measure along Hearst Drive, investigate the installation of a crosswalk at Toronto Park, pool enclosure fence, short-term rentals, review of sign bylaw provisions, establish stakeholder invite, constant stakeholder invite, the Sadlin Arena expansion, zoning bylaw amendment application 290 Cundles, Innisfil Street and Marshall Street all-way stop, Ward 8, all-way stop, Cardinal Street and Hayden Crescent, Ward 3, the Red Park Community final financial release, and the Durham Region Transit Bus Trade. Seeing any comments?
Yeah, I have an amendment. Thank you. I have moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Harvey, that motion 24G030 of Section B of the Second General Committee report dated February 24th, 2024, concerning the implementation of roadside safety measures along Hearst Drive, vicinity of 42 Gables Way, be amended as follows by replacing 300,000 with 200,000. I'd like to speak to that.
There's amendment. Moved by Councillor Harris, second by Councillor Harvey, that motion 24G-030, Section B of the Second General Committee report dated February 28, 2024, concerning the implementation of a roadside safety measure along Hearst Drive in the vicinity of 42 Gable Way, and by amending it by the following, replacing 300,000 with 200,000. Councillor Harris, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Mayor Thompson. Just very simple, a lot of work done on this, and thank you, Mr. Ranasundran and Deputy Mayor Thompson, for your consultation. Just noting that this can be done well within the other amounts, so we don't need to ask for $300,000, so it's just being reduced to reflect that that's not required.
Thank you, Councillor Harris. Any comments on the amendment from members of council? I'll say this. I know this is something, and people look at the amount, and I know Councillor Harris has spoken of this lots, and I had went out with them and we measured it and stuff. There's been an incident at this home 3 times and 2 near misses, if I'm right. So I think implementing this is, and to Councillor Harris's point, thank you, Bala, for all the assistance and guidance and stuff in getting us to where we needed to be. So I will be supporting this. I call the vote on the amendment. Carries. On the motion amended, I call the vote. On the whole motion, sorry, as amended. Carries.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Harvey, that Section C of the Second General Committee report dated February 28th, 2024, now circulated, be adopted.
Moved by Councillor Harris and seconded by Councillor Harvey, that Section C of the Second General Committee Report dated February 28, 2024, now circulated, be adopted. This is referring to Motion 23G, correspondence from the municipality of Grey Highlands concerning school bus arm cameras. So it's council, you don't have to hold it, but you can speak to it. No. Thanks.
Well, it's becoming a bit of a, sorry, it's becoming a bit of a long night. Yes, I had brought this forward wanting to champion this through the province in this route, and it turns out that we were able to bring it forward to the province in another manner. So it's very exciting that we've actually been able to have some conversations, and hopefully this will move forward. So I'm going to vote it. What do I do to take this off now? Yeah. Oh, so just.
Just vote no. So members of council, the motion's on the floor as printed. It's just, because it was captured in a letter with the speed cameras also, we thought that it would be redundant to do this, but according to the clerk, we can just vote normally and it will not be a duplicate letter based on this. So I call the vote. Oh, Councillor Harvey?
Yeah, just for a point of clarification, if I could, the last piece of it says that it be referred to the Community Safety Committee for further consideration. So that's the only piece that I was kind of wondering about. It's more than just a letter sending it back to committee for further discussion.
Oh, through you, Deputy Mayor Thompson, to Councillor Harvey, council can just either vote down the motion to defer it if they'd like to do that. Then it just kind of dies in the water and no further action would be taken on it.
Thank you for that, Councillor Harvey. I'll call the question. All in favor? All opposed? Perfect. Fails.
Enthusiastically.
Okay. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Harvey that Section D of the Second General Committee Report dated February 28th, 2024, now circulated, be received.
Moved by Councillor Harris, second by Councillor Harvey, that Section D of the Second General Committee Report dated February 28, 2024, now circulated, be received. Public consultation, firework restrictions in residential areas. Any comments or questions? Call the vote. Carries. Councillor Harris.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Harvey, that Section E of the Second General Committee Report dated February 28th, 2024, now circulated, be adopted.
Moved by Councillor Harris, second by Councillor Harvey, that Section E of the Second General Committee Report dated February 28, 2024, now circulated, be adopted. This is Mapleview Drive East speed limit investigation from the 50 to 60. Any questions or comments? Councillor Congo? Sorry, Corser?
I struggled with it, yeah, through you, Deputy Mayor. I struggled with this one because I called it out last week, and I'm loath to vote on anything that means raising speed limits within the city. But further looking at the full plan of what this was meant to do, I will support it because I believe that councillors have, in their own ward, have their best interest of the area. And I'm hoping that this is only a temporary measure because I understand that there's more development that's supposed to be coming down the pipeline at some point in this area. So I will support this going forward because be only for street safety, for safe school zones and safe areas.
Perfect. Thank you. Councilor Morales.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Thompson. I want to thank my colleague, Councilor Corser, on that. I appreciate her comments. And also, just as a warning, I'm going to call a recorded vote. It's not to get anyone. I've done that before, but it's not to get anyone. It's to hold me accountable. Because, you know what? Thank you for the discussion last week. There's 27 residents who may be very upset. So it's going to hold me accountable. So I want to show the residents. So I'm going to call a recorded vote, but it's not meant as a gotcha or to prove a point. But I actually just, again, adding to the spirit of your comments, Councilor Corser, I also learned something last week, which is the dynamic of this decision. So that's it.
Madam Clerk, have a recorded vote, please.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Thompson. I'm going to start with Councilor Negussi.
Yes.
Mixing it up tonight. Councilor Harvey.
Yes.
Councilor Harris.
Yes.
Councilor Morales.
Yes.
Councilor Hamilton.
Yes.
Councilor Rima.
Yes.
Councilor Nixon.
Yes.
Councilor Kungle.
Yes.
Councilor Corser.
Yes.
And Deputy Mayor Thompson.
Yes.
Vote carries.
Harris.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Harvey, that Section F of the Second General Committee Report dated February 28th, 2024, now circulated, be adopted. And I have an amendment. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Moved by Councilor Harris, second by Councilor Harvey, that Section F of the Second General Committee Report dated February 28, 2024, circulated, be adopted. This is the Community Infrastructure and Housing Accelerant order, for 175, 199 Essa Road and 50 Wood Street. And I believe, Councilor Harris, you have an amendment.
Yes, Deputy Thompson, I do. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Rietma, that motion 24G046 of Section F of the Second General Committee Report dated February 28th, 2024, concerning the Community Infrastructure and Housing Accelerator, Order 175, 199 Essa Road and 50 Wood Street, be amended by adding the following paragraph, paragraph 4, that the Minister's approval order for the CHIA applies only to the existing landowner, Green World Construction, Inc., and any affiliates, and is not transferable. And I can speak to that.
Councilor Harris has an amendment, moved by Councilor Harris, second by Councilor Rietma, that motion 24-G046, Section F of the Second General Committee Report dated February 28, 2024, concerning the Community Infrastructure Housing Accelerant order for 175, 199 Essa Road and 50 Wood Street be amended by adding the following paragraph, that the minister approve order for a CHIA applies only to the existing landowner, Green World Construction and affiliates. Councilor Harris?
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Mayor Thompson. This one, I believe, is pretty self-explanatory. Certainly, around this table, we often have the challenge with, approving and then things not happening. And so, Green World had come forward, asked us to consider a CHIA. So, this simply means that this CHIA will be, if it's approved, how the order is done, it would be Green World's and would not be transferred to anybody else. And hopefully that would then clarify for those who are connected and invested that they know what this is and it won't be moved on to somebody else.
Thank you. I'll be really brief. To be honest, I will support this amendment, and for the simple reason, I would love to see this on all of our developments. This would actually stop a lot of the squeezing the lemon and then flipping it. And I think that this would hold developers a little more accountable, that their zoning wouldn't be transferable. And so I will be supporting this. So thank you. I call the vote on the amendment. Those in favor? Those opposed? One opposed. On the motion as amended, I call the vote. Those in favor? Oh, sorry, Councilor Harvey.
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Through you to staff, probably Ms. Banfield would be the best. Obviously, there was a lot of discussion through the 3 deputations. And obviously today we're just looking at a zoning. Now, is there anything glaring that you, as our expert, resident expert here, see with what is before council tonight approving the CHIA? Obviously, because we've seen a couple of plans along with the potential zoning that's moving forward, is there anything glaring that you would have issue with the zoning that's going to be moving forward for consideration by the government?
Ms. Banfield.
Through you, Deputy Mayor Ward, to Councillor Harvey. So again, there's been no technical review of the entire project. So there isn't anything glaring. It's a big project with a lot of units that has not had the benefit of a full technical review by staff. So that's glaring. But that being said, there are subsequent approvals that would be required that city staff could work through with the applicant. And the applicant has seemed to have given you your assurances this evening that they would be willing to do that.
Yeah, and thank you. And just for a follow-up, and just to confirm, let's say the CHIA does go through, that the rest of the process would continue as any other application with site plan and things like that going through you and your staff for the technical review at that point. Is that correct?
Ms. Banfield.
Through you, Deputy Mayor Thompson, to Councillor Harvey, that is correct.
Great, thank you. I will support this. I know my colleague to my left here, Councillor Harris, has done a ton of work meeting people, and I was at the one meeting. It's unfortunate that over a 3-month period there wasn't further discussion between the involved parties to maybe get a little bit closer, but it did seem that there was certain differences at that meeting that I wasn't confident were going to get resolved, to be quite honest with you. And when you look at the complexity of this, you're dealing with at least 3 different ministries, whether it's housing, education, and also the MTO. And I think too, because I know a few people around the table were kind of having some second thoughts about this, especially when it comes to the school piece of it. I think all we have to do is look back at the last high school that was built here in Barrie and how many years it took for that school to finally see a shovel in the ground, because there was a stalemate as to how that site plan should go. And that's where things like the CHIA is going to resolve that, because that's one more complexity in this huge complex that we're dealing with. And that's why I personally think the CHIA is the way to go. There's just too many moving parts, and just dealing with 2 of the pieces of those moving parts, not being able to come to any resolution, and then throwing these other pieces into it, it's just too many big moving parts that I think the province needs to step in and make those decisions. And at least then that gets us to the zoning stage. And then obviously we have to entrust our staff to deal with the site plan. And we as councillors always don't necessarily get site plans turning out the way we would like in the end. But again, that we're not the planning professionals, they are. So, but I think this gets things moving and hopefully gets a shovel in the ground in the next couple of years. Whereas if we don't go this route, I'm not confident that we would see much movement on this for several years, especially from the school piece of it, because I had another application come in, and literally the day of the public meeting, the school served the developer with notice that they wanted to put a school in the subdivision, and all of a sudden, now you're into a whole redesign of that application, and that was probably a good 8 to 10 months ago, and I haven't heard a thing. So I definitely will support this, and I send kudos to my colleague for being able to manage this and all the different stakeholders that are in this, and those are my comments. Thank you.
Councillor Hamilton.
Thank you, and through you, and thank you for those points. I think you just summarized everything really nicely. This may be a rudimentary question, but when it goes to the province through the CHIA in terms of the zoning for the schools, do they determine just the land, the size of the land that's dedicated to schools? Or do they determine if it goes to the Catholic or the Simcoe Muskoka District School Board? Like, I'm not sure. Once we get it back from the province, is it the school gets determined what school's going to go there?
Ms. Banfield.
Through you, Deputy Mayor Thompson, to Councillor Hamilton. I believe that's one of the elements that we're hoping for some direction from the province through this process would be how much land and really kind of trying to work out some of that amongst themselves, if you will.
But they could say, okay, so
clarity.
there's six acres of land, and then we're still in the same predicament that we have two school boards that both want whatever 6 acres, right? And so we still are no further ahead because all the province has done is designate this amount of land, and we still have to figure out then what school board we go ahead with, correct?
Through you, Deputy Mayor Thompson, to Councillor Hamilton, I believe we'd get more certainty through the CHIA order.
Okay.
Than that.
Okay, I hope so, because I think that's a big predicament right now, right, is we have 2 school boards that we can't
If
have.
I may add.
Yeah,
So 3 school boards.
3 school boards.
Right, French.
Sorry,
right.
apologies, yeah, correct.
1 minister. So they would determine based on the need of the area, and it would be determined, so, and how it is, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's right of refusal, separate board or public, would you like this? We believe it's there. If they say no, then it would be 2. But the minister will determine who takes they actually bring you to that point.
Okay, and so the minister has information that we do not as a city to determine the need for what school makes the most sense on this particular.
They would have census reports of the community.
Okay.
And by what's existing now, like, schools busting at the seams and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. I guess I would just say, again, in my dealings with I'm just hesitant to give that authority to the ministry if it's not information that we cannot determine ourselves as a city via the census and all the data that's available to us. So that's my only question, because also to Councillor Harvey's point in terms of shovels in the ground and getting schools, I mean, I guess the CHIA process is so new, and I'm not quite sure what the ministry is going to tell us. I'm not quite connecting all the dots that they're going to say it's 6 acres and it's going to go to the Catholic school board and they have to have shovels in the ground, in the timeline that meets us. I don't see that happening from the province, but hopefully I'll be proven wrong.
Thank you. I have Councillor Reid.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'm like Councillor Hamilton. I'm hoping to be proven wrong too, but I'm pretty sure that the developer is going to be back here sometime in the future when he's tired of waiting for the minister to make a decision. We have that experience already in the city, and I think that experience is going to continue on this one. This process is essentially backwards, because normally what we do is we do the draft plan of subdivision first, and the zoning is an implementing tool for the draft plan. And during the draft plan process, we would decide exactly, the shape of the school or shape of the park, or how much it's going to be, of that kind of thing. So good luck to the minister to try to resolve this using this process. I'm not holding my breath for this one. I will support it, but I don't think I hope to be proven wrong.
Thank you. Councillor Corser.
Through you, Deputy Mayor, to Ms. Banfield. This is a new process, this CHIA, correct? This isn't something that's been used over decades. This is new to this government and new to this process that we have now.
Through you, Deputy Mayor Thompson, to Councillor Corser, correct. It's within the last year or so that the provincial government allowed this or started this process.
I'm really not looking to get into the weeds. Conversation has been pretty much done to death this evening. So the difference between an NZO and a CHIA, MZO says this is what's going in and the province comes in and tells you, and a CHIA is something that comes up from us and the developer, correct?
Through you, Deputy Mayor Thompson, to Councillor Corser, that's generally correct.
Cool. So it's only been around for a year. So there's no basis of timeline of anything that we can draw examples of what the wait list is or how long this process takes, and because there's nothing to draw on from because it's just so new, correct?
Through you, Deputy Mayor Thompson, to Councillor Corser, we only have the one example right now at the City of Barrie where we did make a submission in October and we have not received a decision. So that's our sample size of one.
You even know about it in municipalities, like I'm assuming not, because it is so new. So it hasn't been used a lot, I'm assuming?
Through you, Deputy Mayor Thompson, to Councillor Corser, there were a handful. If staff, there's a memo that staff did in April or August, I can send to everybody again, and it showed a couple. There's about maybe 3 or so municipalities that have had a CHIA order issued. And I can recirculate that memo.
That's okay if other members of council would like it, but I'm good. And have they heard anything back?
Through you, Deputy Mayor Thompson, to Councillor Corser, yes, these 3 examples had actual decisions issued.
I would love to ask you to look in your crystal ball and give us a direct timeline of when we would assume we get an answer on this, but I will not do that to you for obvious reasons. And this CHIA is only, my understanding is for density on site. Just to clear, density on site and where the school will be placed and what school board gets it. Everything else will come back to the city for discussion. Is that correct?
Through you, Deputy Mayor Thompson, to Councillor Corser, the staff report shows what the draft CHIA order would look like. So it does change the land use. It does provide some height, some setbacks. So it does look like a standard zoning bylaw amendment, if you will. But to implement the zoning bylaw, you would still need a draft plan of subdivision to create the blocks and site plans to approve the actual buildings on the site.
And that is something that, as mentioned before, will come back for conversation.
Through you, Deputy Mayor Thompson, to Councillor Corser, that is what the recommendation from last week is for those approvals to return to the City of Barrie.
And through you, Deputy Mayor, when this goes to the provincial government, it can't get sidelined by the provincial government. They can't say, well, we're going to grab this and we're going to decide what happens to this site. That wouldn't happen. That wouldn't be this always has to come back to the city for all these conversations we're talking about, correct?
Through you, Deputy Mayor Thompson, to Councillor Corser, I can't really answer that. The province and the minister and the minister's office could, in their wisdom, make different decisions and issue a different order.
I think there's just way too many unknowns for me to be comfortable with this process. I don't know if I'm quite 100% confident in making this, supporting this. So I don't think I'm going to, and that's me. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Councilor Morales.
Very quickly, Deputy Mayor Thompson, I'll be supporting it. Councilor Harvey, incredible framing perspective on this one. I didn't even think of that school and the solutions it could have, like, wow. And I've already spoken enough, Deputy Mayor Thompson, tonight, so I won't say anything else other than say, Councilor Harris, you're almost shaping the vision of a new ward within your ward in a long-term way. So again, kudos to just stick handling this file.
Councillor Harris, I would like you to speak last, if you don't mind. I have one comment, and then, listen, I respect everybody around this table for the passion and realizing it's such a big development and the fear of the unknown, and I do believe that. But the only thing I'll say is I think we have a willing participant and a developer who's come to this city to try to invest probably well over $1 billion. And I think we should really respect that. And I think the process has been something, a little bit nervous and so new. But for the people in the audience, and I spoke earlier today about the curling club is a very important thing to our city. So I'm saying this public, that through Councillor Harris and anybody else who wants to participate, we will do our best to facilitate meetings with the developer, yourself, to make sure that you are whole at the end of this process and you are sustainable and carrying on going forward. So I will leave my comments there, and I will be supporting this. And Councillor Harris, I know this has been hard and probably some sleepless nights and some aggressive walks on the treadmill in the morning, but I commend you on this. So I'll leave it there, and I'll let you have the last word.
Great. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Thompson, and thank you, members of council, for the thoughtful discussion and investment in what we really understand to be a signature piece of land for our community. And for those of us who are Barrieites and who went to the Barrie Fair and have been in the curling club and have been at Barrie Raceway. I worked at Barrie Raceway in high school. Gee, was that ever fun. With my buddies from Barrie North across town working in the Innisfail area. So I have lots of connections to this community. Those who know me know my grandmother lived in the corner of Alfred and Campbell for many years. So this is not unknown territory to me. So one thing I hope you will have noticed tonight is, and Mr. Ismans, thank you for being here. Hope you don't mind me pointing you out, but a resident who lives in the area on Alfred. And what you didn't hear in the last 2 weeks was a lot of residents coming here and saying, what are you doing? And I hope that people have noticed that. And I think the people in the area are reasonable, and they're rational, and they're understanding, and there's not against having something built. And again, Councilor Morales pointed out the last time this came forward, we were talking about the Chi earlier, but like to the residents, it was this, and now it's this, and the future might be this. And we heard tonight from Green World that they have no plans to make this more dense. They have no plans to reduce the green space and the park allotment. They have a commitment to the idea that Councilor Morales brought forward around how can we activate and be creative with a rail spur that could create a trolley, something interesting, something that reduces people using their cars, move around. And so that was really positive. And also a commitment to speak to the curling club. The last institution of my bare memory that remains on this site is the curling club. And I have curled in there, not curled very well, but I've curled in there. I'm more of a lead than a skip. But I think what we've heard tonight is a commitment, both from Green World, thank you, Mr. Windle, and to members of council to really ensure that the curling club has what it needs to be sustainable. And I believe, it will be an asset to that community. And I know you've pivoted to offering pickleball out of curling season, which is an incredible, fast-growing sport. And the big issue with pickleball in Barrie, as we know, is playing when it's raining. Guess what? You can play in the curling club when it's raining, which is a big asset. So an asset to that community. So I'm really hopeful that as the parties evolve in this development, that they see the opportunities that both provide each other. I heard Mr. Speak say all these people will be a good thing for that curling club. Members and activation, pickleball, which we didn't mention as well, which is, again, an incredibly fast-growing sport. Vision Barrie, who are brand new. They're new to the table, and we've talked about even last week's identification of Bayfield and Wellington as being opportunities to, hey, listen, can we get in front of the development community, the architects, the landowners, and others to say, listen, urban village, have you thought about it? Have you seen it? Do you understand it? This is not a done deal. This is not the only place in Barrie where opportunities exist to envision something different, something new, something fresh. and something that is exciting for Barrie to be leading. So, this is not the end. This is not, we do this and nothing else happens. So for me, yeah, it has been, because it is important. It's not just a Ward 8 property. I respect that, and I appreciate that. You all have members of your community who are curling club members, and you're all Barrie residents who have, I think, around the table, I know Mayor Noddle and obviously Councillor Hamilton are Barrie kids and who probably have memories from that site as well. So it's not like I own that connection to the site in and of myself, and obviously others who have histories in Barrie have those histories too. So we've heard about this being a new process, because it is. And Mayor Nuttall's not here, so I don't want to speak for him, but for those who recall, he really talked about the challenge that exists between this site being activated, which is what everybody says they want, and getting housing built, which we all know we need. Housing availability and affordability are front and center nationally, not Barrie. This is a national issue. So what is our opportunity to invest in a solution here in Barrie? But Mayor Nuttall's talked about the challenge that exists for us with the levers that we have, is the multi-ministry complexity that we don't have the authority to solve. So this is why the CHIA, and I think Mr. Wendell fairly represented that it wasn't just Greenworld, that there was some thought around others that this could be an opportunity, an option to resolve some of those complications. So, we made some changes last week, and again this week another amendment, and thank you for the support for members of council, that will allow us to, have some, that still allows and shows that we still have an opportunity to impact how this site ends up being finished. We know that that's a key item for the curling club. So, I will be supportive. I think, again, for the residents in the area, I can tell you this week, the amount of calls I've had, emails I've had about concerns are the same as the amount of deputations that we're seeing tonight at this presentation from residents. And the answer is we had deputations from Envision Barrie, we had deputations from the curling club, a deputation from the developer. There wasn't a deputation from a resident of the area. And I'm not saying every resident loves it, every resident is 100% behind it. I'm saying there's no concern, no large concern with what's being presented to go to the ministry in this CHIA order. So I will be supportive, and thank you for the time, Deputy Mayor Thompson.
I will call the question. All those as the motion as amended, all those in favor? Those opposed, sorry. Carries. Councillor Harris.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Harvey, that Section G of the Second General Committee Report dated February 28th, 2024, now circulated, be adopted.
Moved by Councillor Harris, second by Councillor Harvey, that Section G of the Second General Committee Report dated February 28, 2024, now circulated, be adopted. This is the report of the water. All in favor? Carries. Councillor Harris.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Harvey, that Section H of the Second General Committee Report dated February 28, 2024, now circulated, be adopted.
Moved by Councillor Harris, second by Councillor Harvey, that Section H of the Second General Committee Report dated February 28, 2024, now circulated, be adopted. This is the request for the exemption of the sign at 60 Maple View, Ward 7. Any comments? All in favor? Carries. Councillor Harris.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Harvey, that Section I of the Second General Committee Report dated February 28, 2024, now circulated, be adopted.
Moved by Councillor Harris, second by Councillor Harvey, that Section I of the Second General Committee Report dated February 28, 2024, now circulated, be adopted. This is the memorandum on the circulation list that the KPIs and also concerning the Barrie Transit free service update for seniors. Any comments or questions? All in favor? Carries. Councillor Harris.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Harvey.
Councillor Harris, I've jumped the gun. That's the confirmation bylaw. We actually have a presentation. So if you just hang on to that, sorry. I got ahead of myself. We were rolling there after the alphabet thing and everything. But I think we should do this presentation because if we make these lovely people wait any longer, the festival might happen before they make a presentation. So I will now call to the podium Mr. Carballo for the Latin Carnival 2023 festival held downtown. Thank you for your patience, and I do apologize. You picked a great night to come to. It's riveted.
On a lighter note, hopefully. Deputy Mayor Thompson, council members and staff.
You summed it up right there. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, I just want to start by thanking you guys for the opportunity to present Carnival Barrie. My name is Adrian Carballo. I am a Latin Hispanic Canadian living here in Barrie. I am the first generation of my family in Canada. My family roots are from Uruguay, small little country between Argentina and Brazil. And I see myself as what makes Canada great, the ability to represent two multicultures. I have a confession. I have always tried to defend how Uruguay is different from other Latin communities. Stereotypes and generalities. Oh, I think I'm supposed to do this myself here. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Stereotypes and generalities have blended Latino culture into the overview of similarities and highlights. Each Latin community is proud without a doubt, but as Latinos, we celebrate daily a shared representation of being Spanish or Hispanic or Latino, and the odd time we'll auto-correct ourselves and add our country of origin. I've always tried to make sure that Uruguay was represented in any of the events that would be brought to a community representing Latin culture. From being chairman at the Latin American Pavilion for Carasaga Festival in Mississauga 20 years ago, I even started a Uruguayan food truck, Chacha Churros, empanadas, churros, stuff like that. We participated locally, Promenade Days, Kempen Fest, Boots and Hearts. We even did small community events like St. Peter's High School, Celebration of Life. But like so many, COVID hit us hard, and large gatherings took a long time to come back, and we were first forced to close. I think we were the only Uruguayan food truck in Canada at the time. Silver lining, though, it sparked a new idea. I've always trying to share the Uruguay and being my version of Latino. So I started to ask myself, why only Uruguay? Why not show what we share instead? Why not bring the other 99% of Latin culture in? Celebrating what we have in common and not our differences. And then the brainstorming began. I wanted an exciting experience that could create awareness, appreciation to the variety and uniqueness of each Latin culture, blend our social communities with our business communities, create a platform to share our diversity with everyone, not just Latinos, but anyone, to become a flagship event that celebrates Barrie and the gem that we did on the waterfront, a celebration that is full representation of all Latin culture through ethnic displays of music, food, and dance. Our mission is that the festival be acknowledged as a token of honor to all the sacrifices made by countless families leaving their countries in order to find better opportunity in Canada. And then Carnival Barrie was born. Ooh. Once I had a plan, I engaged, you guys probably know her, Nina from the Latin Resource Center, to introduce local businesses and municipal contacts. We became true friends with a shared goal of celebrating Latin culture. When we gathered local sponsors, performances, vendors, partnered with Georgian College in order to get some volunteers together. We even had a magazine designed for the advertising opportunities. Festival was scheduled September 2nd and 3rd, 2023. Budget for the festival was floating, and this was my own personal bank account that was going to pay for this. Then July 1st, came, and we had a critical tipping point. 2 months before the festival, we had only received 20% of our funding goal, and I was ready to quit. We were going to cancel the festival. I was going to give up before my family lost everything. And I asked my wife that night who cared if I even did this festival. And I kept imagining me and my wife uprooting our 3 kids, taking them to a country that we don't know anybody, we don't speak the language, we have no job or even a place to stay, standing there with single luggage and a handful of cash, and somehow this is what my parents did for me. This image is what would get me to July 2nd, and then to July 3rd, and then it happened, people started to show up. These were the people that truly cared. We started to receive unsolicited help in droves, from volunteers to vendors, social media gurus, and even financial support followed. On that stage, when it was up, music is playing. Through the smoke of the food vendors, we look out and we can see hundreds of people dancing, laughing, and celebrating. Mayor Nuttall, Councilor Member Sergio Morales, MP John Broussard, Representative for the MP Andrea Conjun were there to witness. Our platform to share Latino culture in Barrie was real. Here's maybe an opportunity where I can just maybe get them to play a video our social media team put together for us. Does anybody drink that water? Everybody that's Latino in this country has immigrated to this country. And this is a token of honor to all the people that have come to this country to make a better life. So to me, Carnival Barrie 2023 was amazing. It was beautiful. It was a perfect moment in time where the stars aligned representing Latin culture over the Barrie waterfront. We are so proud of our festival, but when the dust settled, we found that maybe it wasn't so amazing, maybe not so beautiful. I'll give you a few examples. In order to preserve our budget, we opted for private security instead of police services. We had so many people there were families driving their cars over the pedestrian bridge at the Tiffin launch. And we had security settle it all out and nothing big happened, but the opportunity that we had no fights, that we had no incidents, and we had no need for police doesn't say that potentially what if. Another story, our stage MC you saw was sharing his experience of the festival referenced by the quality of toilet paper in the porta potties. Amazing, he says. It's the best he's ever seen at any of the festivals, and he thought it was a nice touch. The truth is that Sunday afternoon, majority of the toilets had run out of toilet paper, and one of the guests complained to my mother. She was so embarrassed that she ran to our house. I live behind the Mandarin on Jane Crescent, and she stole all my Costco TP, and she stocked all the toilets. Apparently triple ply is a pretty good upgrade. Challenges were expected, as is an inaugural event, but we had a great team, multiple hats being worn by multiple people, and utter failure was avoided by the commitment and work put in by our team. The final blow was reviewing the final balance sheets. Bottom line is I committed to spend over approximately $100,000, and when we tallied up all the revenue for the festival, I was underfunded by 50%. But when I watch the video and I see the people in it, and I see, to me, it's still amazing, to me, it's still beautiful, and we're gonna do it again, and my team wants to do it again. So Carnival Barrie 2024 is in the works. We've spoken to Events Barrie, great team you got over there. Erin and her people are awesome. We've committed to August 31st and September 1st, 2024 as our date. Social media is ramping up. Response has been overwhelming. We've been accepted by the Henry Burnick Entrepreneurship Center with Don Bourne and Chris Adams as my mentors in order to develop some systems and structure, to develop a larger management team to be able to delegate and balance workloads. We've established a strong budget and have ambitious goals for sponsors, fundraising, and vendors. We'll be returning to Will Dwyer Park for now, though our 5-year goal is to go to South Shore Center for a larger venue and be across the GO train. But last year was privately funded, the shortfall of the event. And to me, this was an investment to establish proof of concept. Proof that an event of this to celebrate all Latinos would be welcomed with open arms by the city. Even now, being able to present to council is just more proof of concept. I have been blessed and fortunate enough to be able to put my money where my mouth was last year. But this year, our focus will be fundraising as a top priority to continue the celebrations. And through a strong strategy and organized plan between equal parts generation of revenue and exchange of services in lieu of funding, we hope to reach our goals. I appreciate this opportunity to speak to council on what we are doing and are counting on your partnership. I feel this event is a requirement for the City of Barrie. I'm not sure why, but I have been given this soapbox to represent Latin culture, and I take it very seriously, and Carnival Barrie is my responsibility. We are currently looking for suggestions or introductions, alignments, creative forms of support that can be suggested by the council. Possibility could be providing appropriation of police services, coordinations through fees, potential access to city logistical assets, porta potties with 3-ply toilet paper, even ideally a sponsorship from council as preferred or an approved city event. This approval alone could be leveraged into marketing, networking, sponsorship opportunities through Barrie business community. In closing, I am very grateful for the opportunity to present the proof of what the Latin community is in the City of Barrie and why we need this. Thank you again for everything. Questions, comments? I have nowhere to go.
Mr. Carballo, thank you so much, and thank you for your patience and waiting and stuff. We really appreciate that. But any member of council, any questions? In English.
Spanglish, you're going to get Spanglish. Gracias por venir hoy. Thanks for coming today, Adrian. The video's great, but I thought you were going to deliver a proof of concept. Like, he's going to do a couple of tents and it'll be great. Wow, it was incredible. The atmosphere is captured. There was nothing fake. Very hyped up there. And it was actually the suggestion of Mayor Nuttall to invite you because he was having so much fun and he could not believe how big and the energy, right? The passion, which is a very Latino thing, that was present there. So kudos to that. Have you connected, you said you connected with our event staff, so here's, I guess my question to you is, have you connected with a staffer who's informed you about various funding opportunities through the existing structures that we have at the city?
No.
Not yet? Okay.
No.
So I'm just gonna, so maybe we'll get staff to connect Adrian with that there as well. And this is a very on the spot kind of question I'm going to ask a staffer, Deputy Mayor Thompson. But Mr. Millar, a couple months ago, we had that $5,000 community donation by a developer in Ward 9. And it followed the proper process, which basically the check goes to you and goes into the general coffers, and then it needs council direction to be respent. Now, the developer, Honeyfield, is the developer which
they don't have active applications. That's why we're allowed to do it. So I guess my question to you, Mr. Millar, is they didn't put any stipulations on the funding. They said it'd be nice if it went to a Ward 9 thing, but they understand that a City of Barrie, we might be wards, but we're all one community. So they delegated, I guess, judgment, not authority, but judgment to me to kind of decide that. With council direction, Mr. Millar, is this something that supporting, I'm not going to say an event like this, I'm going to say this event, if council gave that direction, something that would, from your process, from your perspective, be due process? Through you, Deputy Mayor Thompson. So, first of all, I'll just remind you, Councillor Morales, since you have been around here for a while, it's Miller. It's not Miller.
I'm so sorry.
But anyway, just answer your
I was
question.
speaking Spanglish. That's my defense.
So if you remember that those funds were received in 2023 and they went in the operating budget, so we're just closing the books for 2023. Council will have an opportunity when the year-end report comes in April to allocate surpluses. So if there is one, you could allocate funds through that process. You could pass the motion sooner than that, but that would be the process. When we receive funds during the year, when they're operating in nature, it's better, we need that direction during the year before we close. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, no, it does. Thank you. I appreciate it. And Deputy Mayor Thompson, quickly, we attended an open house that Honeyfield threw for those new residents moving there. One of the things that stood out at me was the new communities coming to Barrie. Some were Latino, some were not. Some were existing Barrie that just wanted to buy a newer home. And it was almost like a very diverse neighborhood of people that are about to move in. And I think it would be on theme and really kind of cool to have that kind of, that's the source of the money, and that was the sentiment towards that open house, and then having that support further multiculturalism and bringing people out who wouldn't otherwise experience these kind of events. Anyways, we will go through that process. Thank you for the presentation, Adrian. Thank you for your time, and I'll make the joke. It's probably not the first time you've had a Latino hold you up for 3 hours talking and asking all the questions I asked earlier. So thank you very much for your patience and showing us the great initiative that you put forward.
With that, thank you.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, Councillor Harris. We'll do inquiries. Any inquiries of staff? Any announcements? Nope. Councillor Congo.
Thank you. I do have two. One is to start off with, we have an opportunity to currently choose the City of Barrie bird. So the polls are open on buildingbarrie.ca. I know Deputy Mayor Thompson, I think, loves the nuthatch, but there are 7 different birds that have been identified. We are seeing an amazing response at this point in time, so please do go in, take a look at the 7 birds. Vote for your favorite. Voting is open until March the 31st. This really has to do with Barrie being certified back in 2022 as a bird-friendly city, the 15th in Canada. Part of that consideration is also continuing to do some work tied to keeping that certification and criteria with Nature Canada. So I do want to really thank the 11 members of the City of Barrie bird team that brought this forward and shortlisted those birds. And we look forward to announcing that publicly on May the 14th, which is World Migratory Bird Day. Please take a look at information there. I won't take up time tonight, but to understand why it's important to be doing this work, while this is a fun engagement education opportunity, there's lots of information behind what our municipality is doing and what groups like Nature Barrie, Living Green, Pollinate Barrie, our Barrie Public Library are doing around supporting our migratory birds and bird species. Secondly, very quick congratulations. We had a lot of Barrie curlers actually competing this past weekend, and would like just to do a shout out. We actually had our Barrie Special Olympics curling team won bronze at the National Games in Calgary, so huge congratulations. In addition to that, we had a number of Barrie curlers at different competitions. One included the Team Johnson, the U21 Women's Provincial Championship, And we had 2 Barrie curling teams in the elementary championships hosted by Stroud. Thank you to Stroud. And that was Team Kinnear and Team Paradis. So congratulations to all curlers, but again, lovely to see Barrie athletes representing us both within Ontario and within a national system.
Thank you, Councillor Kungol. Councillor Corser.
I have a couple of announcements to make. First off, I would like to first, it's been a long night. First announcement, I am very, very excited to announce that we now currently have a year-round accessible heated washroom at Sunnydale Park with actual warm running water. I'd like to thank, it was, as I discussed with staff, it should have been easy, but it certainly wasn't, and staff put in a ton of work to make this happen. First, I would like to thank Ms. Excuse me, Ms. McAlpine, first off, for all of her hard work, and facilities, Rick Pugh, and Recreation and Culture, Dan Bell. And for other team members, I hope I don't butcher anyone's name too poorly, Paulo Bavalani, Jason DeVroom, Joel Giles, Devin Newhouse, Paul McCarran, Rise Kareem, and Gus Dementopoulos. And I'd like to thank all of them for all their hard work, and they get major credit for me. I'm so happy about that, and residents are very happy to have those washrooms as well. Yes, unfortunately, I don't know if it's 3-ply. I have not confirmed. We'll have to direct that question to staff next time. And I'm getting a hard no. And my second announcement is this Friday, I'm very, very proud that we'll be having International Women's Day this Friday. This year's theme is Inspire Inclusion. And you can join us. Everyone is welcome. It's a free event, of course, to celebrate women in our community. You can join us at City Hall at 4:30 p.m. for a Women's Day flag raising. Afterwards, we'll have some speeches by local women, powerful women in our community, and our dignitaries. And then it'll be followed up with an equity march for women through downtown Barrie, and everyone's invited to bring their flags and to celebrate the incredible women we have in our community and internationally. So that is this Friday, starting at 4:30 at the courtyard in front of City Hall. And those are my announcements. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Corser. Councillor Harris.
Yeah, I'll be really quick, Deputy Mayor Thompson. Just wanted to recognize a really wonderful event that happened last Friday. Hockey Helps the Homeless raised over $152,000 for the Redwood Park Communities and Busby Street Center. And I want to recognize Shay Thurlow. Shay himself raised $23,909.75. And Shay's been the leading donation getter for several years. Absolutely incredible. This is year 9 for Hockey Helps Homeless. They've now raised well over $1 million. I just want to give a thank you to the new chair, Corey Johnson, who's taken over from Dave McCullough, who's nurtured this from its beginnings, and obviously Barrie Hockey Hall of Fame member Mike Gartner, who gives his time to this every year and gets the pros to make the event special for all those who attended. So thank you, City of Barrie citizens, for the generous donations, and I'm sure Redwood Park Communities and Busby Street Center will put those monies to good use. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harris. Any other announcements? I have a whack of them, but you're getting 2. The City of Recreation and Culture Service Team has planned several programs, rentals, special events, and March break camps for the month of March. For information, visit barrie.ca/community recreation and environment. Just a reminder, I know the weather outside you wouldn't believe, but on-street parking is still restricted. 3 a.m. till 6 a.m. in the BIA and 12:01 to 7 a.m. on every other street. I know that's probably upsetting, but it's just the way it is. So, Councillor Harris, the bylaws, please.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Thompson. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Harvey, that leave be granted to introduce the following bill and this bill be read a first, second, and third time this day and finally passed, Bill 019.
Moved by Councillor Harris, second by Councillor Harvey. Leave be granted to introduce the following bill, and this bill be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed. Bill 19. Any comments or questions? All in favor? Carries. Councillor Harris.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Harvey. Confirmation bylaw that leave be granted to introduce the following bill, and this bill be read a first, second, and third time this day and finally passed. Bill 020.
Moved by Councillor Harris, second by Councillor Harvey. Leave be granted to introduce the following bill, and this bill be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed. Bill 20, the confirmation bylaw. All in favor? Carries. Just before I call for adjournment, I just want to thank the clerk and everybody's patience with me today for first time. Thank you very much. Can I get a motion for adjourn? Moved by Councillor Harvey, second by Councillor Negussi. All in favor?